radio.com.
It's time for today's STEM tip. Okay, you know recycling is important. No one wants plastic in the ocean. Here's a cool way to repurpose a plastic bottle. Build an awesome terrarium. Cut a large plastic bottle in half and fill the base with sand, pebbles, potting soil, and your favorite plant. I chose an African violet. Put the top of the bottle over your base and place it in the sun. Your plant will grow sealed in its own ecosystem. Fun, right? Learn more at She Can STEM. A message from the Ad Council.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Jeremy House. Democrats in the House appear on the verge of advancing President Biden's $1.85 trillion domestic policy package. The House scrapped votes late Thursday, but will be back at it today. Delays moving the legislation are being blamed for the Democrats' dismal showing in this week's elections. Virginia Governor-elect Glenn Youngkin says he's been learning the powers afforded the governor by the state's constitution.
We've been through that a bit over the course of the last 10 months. And you know, we're really looking forward to working with our majority in the House of Delegates, which, you know, there's still some races that I think have a little bit of counting to do.
63 pounds, the latest defiant move ahead of upcoming nuclear talks with the West. Shares have opened lower in Europe after a downbeat day in Asia, where Chinese benchmarks sagged under revived concerns over property developers. Benchmarks fell in London, Tokyo, Hong Kong, and Shanghai, but rose in Paris and Sydney. On Wall Street, Dow futures are ahead by 11 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Do you know how much you're really paying for life insurance through work? I can almost guarantee you're overpaying for limited coverage. I'm Joel Clark, a Select Quote agent for over 20 years. My clients are shocked to learn how expensive life insurance at work really is because of a rate that's driven up by unhealthy people. Why pay more when you don't have to? For over 35 years, Select Quote has helped people save 50% or more by shopping highly rated insurance carriers. I even found a 40-year-old man with high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. Don't wait. Workplace open enrollment is here. Let Select Quote save you money and get you the coverage you need to protect your family.
For your free quote in just minutes, call 1-800-659-8080. That's 1-800-659-8080. 1-800-659-8080. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Full details on example policy and carrier ratings at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Price could vary by health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
A rookie Kansas state lawmaker is stepping down temporarily after being arrested.
21-year-old Democrat Aaron Coleman charged with domestic battery over a disturbance involving his brother. He says he's taking what he calls a leave of absence following a judge's order that he undergo a mental health evaluation. Coleman also calls the prosecution of him frivolous. He's pleaded not guilty to the battery charge. Jason Walker reporting.
Officials in Niger say suspected Islamic extremists have killed 69 people in an attack on a self-defense group near the border with Mali. Niger's Interior Ministry says the Tuesday ambush targeted civilians who were aiding the military in the fight against militants in the volatile border region. Among those killed in the attack was the mayor of Banabangu. 15 other members of the village defense group were wounded in the ambush. News and analysis at townhall.com. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy predicts his party could flip more than 60 House seats in next year's midterm elections.
McCarthy and his GOP conference will be looking to replicate the Youngkin victory in congressional races across the country next year. He says Republicans warned Speaker Nancy Pelosi her policies were losing with the public.
We have warned Speaker Pelosi almost every day that she's been in the majority this year.
Minority Whip Steve Scalise says Democrat policies failed to win.
That kind of big government socialism was rejected overwhelmingly by the voters in Virginia.
Republicans need to flip only a handful of seats in 2022 to take back the majority. Bernie Bennett reporting.
The Dutch Supreme Court has upheld part of a Russian appeal against a $50 billion arbitration award to former shareholders of bankrupted oil giant Yukos. The judgment on Friday rejected other grounds of appeal put forward by Russia. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Please stand by.
We now take you live to the Institute of Rational Thought for a special broadcast.
hard-hitting interviews, and relevant information to make your day. It's Chad Adams.
Good morning. Good day. Whenever you choose to listen to this journey into examination of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness here at the Chad Adams Show. Good buddy TK here from their production booth, making it all sound like I know what I'm doing. Yes. The secret conspiracy. Conspiracy is alive and well, by the way. Palace intrigue taking place. No sooner were the elections over on Tuesday than the intrigue of the 2022 election started, even at the local level. You know, New Hanover, Brunswick County, there's palace intrigue. The Brunswick County women put on a wonderful, wonderful event last night. 2 days into the 2022 elections, they had a forum for judicial candidates. You never knew there were that many judicial folks running from Supreme Court on down that were there at Brunswick County. There were people from the North Carolina House, North Carolina Senate. There were folks that are running for school board, clerk of court. There were a lot of. It was just a well-done event. They did a good job. They even had the Zoom meeting so other people could join in, so people running for U.S. Senate could join in from D.C. They did a stellar job with that event. We'll talk a little bit. I don't know how much we'll talk about that, but there will be a special announcement later in the broadcast that we will address. We're also going to have Jeff Rivenbark from WWAY TV3 News. We'll be talking about all things local with him. Then we'll be joined by Mayor Bill Saffo, just recently reelected, current mayor and reelected Mayor Bill Saffo. We'll also be joined later in the broadcast by Mayor-elect of Oak Island, Liz White. Very spirited campaign there. And, there's a lot of change underway. It seemed to be a change election. So we will talk with her about her view on Oak Island, her vision, what she'd like to accomplish, and some of the challenges there in that community. And then later in the broadcast, also Representative Charlie Miller will be joining us. He just back from a marathon redistricting session, was able to run into him last night as well. He's going to be on the broadcast in the third hour. So we'll be talking with him about what's going on with redistricting, what's going on with the budget. And he's also still remains as the chief deputy for the sheriff's department in Brunswick County. So, but there's just so much going on out there. And then we'll have a special announcement in the 9:30, between 9:30 and 10. And then third hour, for those of you listening online or listening at other times, that's what's going on. Now, some fun stuff to kind of kick things off. I don't know how much you guys have tuned into the news in the past 24 hours, but we're going to get a big vote today. There's going to be a vote. Now, we've heard the Democrats promise this for a month and a half. They're going to vote on the Build Back Better plan, the reconciliation. There's two bills. There's one for about $500 million, and there's another for about $500 billion, and then another for about $2.25 trillion. I think it all ramps up to $2.25 trillion, but if you add it all together, it's about $6 or $7 trillion. But what's a trillion between friends? So they're going to be voting on this. Pelosi has promised. Pelosi has promised. We could just go with the alliteration all day long. She's promised a vote on this multiple times. Now, the lesson Democrats learned on Tuesday was not that they were unpopular. The lesson they learned on Tuesday was not that inflation was a problem, that the southern border is a problem, that government-run schools with lots of dogma in them was a problem. They didn't learn that fears about foreign policy, that's not a problem. What they learned on Tuesday was if only they had passed this multi-trillion dollars in spending, that all would be fine. They would have walked away. The election would be happy. Things would be good. And our president would be loved, much loved. Now, interesting, we got to talk about that a little bit too, and I'll play some sound clips. So yesterday, the president was asked about his Justice Department's policy to give about $500,000 to families separated. They had to because children couldn't be kept with adults when they crossed illegally. So the Justice Department has decided, working with the ACLU in this settlement issue, $500,000 to $1 million per family, which is an incentive, a direct incentive. If you come across the border illegally and in the process of being processed, you get separated, you can get $1 million. So bring your kids with you, and if you get separated, there's $1 million prize on the other side of that there border, if you can just get across it. Now, irony, if companies don't comply, legal operating companies in this country don't comply with the vaccine mandate exposed by the Biden administration, legal companies with U.S. citizens working for them can face a fine of $100,000. So if you come here illegally and get separated in the process of being processed, then you get $500,000 to $1 million. If you're a legal company here trying to build back this country better, I guess, then you're going to be penalized up to $100,000 if you don't bow down, kiss the ring, get all your employees vaccinated. $116,000 fine, I think. It's the absurdity of this. And then the peace-loving leftists that are out there, Joe Manchin. This is what's so ironic. The left is not about love. The left is not about unity. The left is about obedience. It is about control. It's an elitist-driven and then low-paid activist newsmakers that combine to create this bizarre world. So you remember not long ago, Joe Manchin, who's arguably one of the best things going for Democrats in West Virginia. He represents, you can't go, if you go further left than Joe Manchin in West Virginia, you are unelectable. You just can't be elected. So the Democrats are lucky they have a D in West Virginia right now. But that's not the way they pay activists to look at things. They pay activists to harass, bully, torment him. It wasn't that long, he lives on a houseboat. It wasn't that long ago that a bunch of them paddled out, in front of his boat and screamed and yelled at him, tried to disrupt his life. This is what they do. Remember, they did this to people that worked in the Trump administration. They untethered a multi-million-dollar boat that Betsy DeVos's family owned to set it adrift so it could either do damage to other people and do damage to the boat. They're just untethered. They approach people in restaurants. Maxine Waters, Representative Maxine Waters, said, don't let them know they're not welcome. Basically, anywhere. Call your friends. Get a mob together. It wasn't that long ago that former Governor Pat McCrory was basically cornered in an alleyway by these people. These are terrifying people. And so yesterday they cornered Joe Manchin as he's trying to leave. They've cornered him several times, but they cornered him, and then they posted videos alleging that he tried to run them over. He's trying to leave a parking garage, and they won't let him. And they're yelling at him and screaming at him, acting as if they have some kind of moral high ground. Most of the time, these highly disturbed activists are compensated by groups on the left. They pay them to show up. It's an organized thing. But they're angry, they're bitter, they're not about love or peace or unity, any of that. It's the same kind of mentality that burned cities last year that created Chop Chaz up in Seattle. It's the kind of seething anger and righteousness that these people think they have. It's untethered. So I want to go through a few of these clips. So this is the Joe. I think it's safe. I listened to it. I hope it's safe. But they cornered Joe Manchin. He's trying to leave. Now, he has a nice car. And they're attacking him. And they've posted these videos, Hunger Strike for Climate Justice. These are the climate justice warriors. They're not interested in discussion. They are the left's version. Well, they are basically eco-terrorists. Do what we say, or we're going to disrupt your life, your livelihood, your family. We're going to disrupt your ability to live. We're going to track you down in a bathroom like they did Kristen Sinema. They're going to come after you. It's obscene. It's absurd. It's pathetic. But this is how they treat people they disagree with. It's not about civil discourse for them. In fact, I tell you what, we're going to take a little bit of an early break because I know we got Jeff Rivenbark coming up at the bottom of the hour. So we're going to take a break here, and we'll come back, and I'll play some of these sound clips just for your listening pleasure. So stay tuned. Much more to go here on the Chad Adams Show. We'll be right back.
It's a difficult lake, that one.
Well, hey, y'all, it's Holly Brewer
and Amy Ludwig and Kristen Ludwig
from Just Think, the podcast where we don't want to tell you what to think. We just challenge you to do it. We're happy to have some of our episodes featured right here on 106.7, The Big Talker, on Saturdays at 11 a.m. So we hope you join us in the conversation and most importantly, just think.
folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Hey, this is Matt Ham, co-founder of Uprint Faith and Personal Development. Join us for Wake Up Our Faith, a real conversation about living out your faith between Sundays, streaming live every Wednesday at 11 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Catch the replay every Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7 FM. Stop by and visit us on the web at uprint.life.
Here's 1 minute of tree knowledge in 30 seconds with K.O. Davis.
It's important that you have somebody, a trained professional, to trim your trees. There are these guys out there that just hack trees, and that's the worst thing in the world that you can do. Don't let somebody hat rack your trees. That's tree term for hat rack. You know how they just cut a tree and it looks like it's just got like a hat rack? These guys just go up and just cut the trees off, and they don't cut it back to the proper spot. Call us, because we care about your trees.
Visit KO'sCoastToCoastTree.com.
Don't let some yahoo hat rack your trees.
Acoustic wave therapy at the Frank Institute is a revolutionary treatment for inflammation, issues of blood flow, and is a solution for the constant suffering of chronic pain. Through the localized transmission of sound waves, stem cells are stimulated to bring about restored blood flow, vascular regeneration, and the disbursement of pain receptors to affected areas. If you've been told that your issues could not be treated without surgery or prescription, give us a call. Non-invasive, non-surgical, and prescription-free. Acoustic wave therapy is only available at the Frank Institute. Call today, 910-679-8534, and ask about acoustic wave therapy.
Do you have questions about money, career, or relationships? Are you not sure how to make progress on your goals? We're here to help. The Ramsey Show is a caller-driven show where we'll give you a practical, clear path to win with money, and we'll give you hope in all areas of your life.
See, I can listen to that. That's you don't hear great acoustic stuff very often anymore. That is some. Now, moving along. I want to play this clip, so TK's going to have to do some fun stuff. I'm hoping I made it work yesterday, so we're going to make it work now. This is the group of hunger strike climate activists. Dun dun dun. They're climate warriors. And Joe Manchin's just trying to leave a parking garage. So this is the kind of behavior that's deplorable, it's disgusting, and it is astounding that it isn't called out more by a lot of folks on the left. It's just this is what the extension of their hate machine. It goes after people in a very personal way, and this is what happened in Joe Manchin. He's trying to leave. He's in his car. He's trying to leave a parking garage, and because he's not supporting the trillions of dollars in new spending, but for that, this is how they interpret that.
Joe Manchin, your kids' lives matter. Joe Manchin, the children of West Virginia matter. They matter more than your own life. They matter so much more than your expensive car.
The kids matter more than your expensive car. They're surrounding him. They're blocking his car in. They're right in his window, in his driver's window, yelling at him. And all of them have their cell phones on, thinking they're going to make the latest, greatest TikTok, Twitter video. And they keep yelling this stuff.
So much more than the clothes you're wearing. Joe Manchin, why won't you fight for me?
Is the money worth it? Is it more important than my life? Is it more important? Is the money that green, Joe Manchin? And they all of them are videotaping this. And they're blocking his car in. It would be terrifying. I mean, put yourself in that position. You are surrounded by a mob of whacktivists that all are filming you like a zombie movie. It's like zombies holding cell phones. And they're surrounding your car, and they're leaning up against your hood. And you're just trying to leave the garage. You're scared. You don't know what's going to happen. Manchin kept his poise. But it kept going. Is the money better than our lives? They're just yelling and screaming, and they're standing in front of his car, and then they accuse him of driving over them. Now, they're leaning up against his car. They're completely blocking him. Oh, they tried to run us over. No, he didn't. You can watch the car. It's moving. It's moving at 0.01 mile per hour, trying to make forward progress. Finally, security has to just push the people out of the way to allow him to leave. He has a right. This is the thing. He has a right. He has a right to leave. He should have a right to leave. But they impeded his progress. So that's the way that you got to realize how these people act when it's about power. Now, moving to another one. This is just interesting. So Joe Biden yesterday gets asked about the $450,000 per family, per illegal family. And here's what so the White House had to walk this back. So remember we said the ACLU disagreed. The ACLU said, oh, no, that's not what Joe Biden said. We just want to remind him. So notice how they cover. If Donald Trump had said that, they would have attacked him. Oh, Donald Trump's just this, he's stupid, he's crazy, he's a crazy person. But when Joe Biden does, they cover for him. Oh, we'd like to remind the president that we're working in a partnership, the ACLU said. The ACLU is a vicious group. Believe me, I've been in a lawsuit with them for about the past 7 years. Vicious, vicious people. And they believe they're always right about everything. They're a bunch of socialists. But here's what happened in the White House yesterday. So they asked his press secretary about this $450,000. And here's what she had to say.
If it saves taxpayer dollars and puts the disastrous history of the previous administration's use of zero tolerance and family separation behind us, the president is perfectly comfortable with the Department of Justice settling with the individuals and families who are currently in litigation with the U.S. government.
Now, let me remind you, he said it was a garbage report. He said it wasn't true. So you can infer a number of things, but let me overly simplify this. He's either not aware of what his administration, his Justice Department, either he wasn't briefed unaware, completely in the dark about what his own administration is doing and settling, because it was reported in the Wall Street Journal. He had plenty of time. We knew about it. Clearly, he should have known about it. If he didn't know about it, then we have kind of a walking dead president because they're not letting him know stuff. Because he called it a garbage report. So either he was uninformed or not cognizantly able to discern that it was real. So the same reporter that asked Joe Biden the question yesterday is the same reporter that asked the White House and got that answer. So they carefully crafted a statement saying, if it saves taxpayer dollars, is it true? The president characterized it as a garbage report. Is it true? So instead of saying, well, the president was wrong, they said, well, if it saves taxpayer dollars and puts the disastrous history of the previous administration's use of zero tolerance and family separation, which was done in the process of processing illegals, the president is perfectly comfortable with the DOJ settling with the individuals and families. So in other words, no denial. It wasn't garbage. It was true. And the media covers for this kind of stuff. Now take it one step further. Now, it wasn't that long ago the Democrats were saying, we have the votes for this multi-trillion-dollar package. So as you look through this, you're like $1.75 trillion social spending package and the $550 billion infrastructure bill. So the weeks of embarrassing stops, starts, deal making. Today's the day, though. Today is the day. So Nancy Pelosi's asked about this. And here's what the Speaker of the House, one of the most powerful people in D.C., probably, and she's, here's what she had to say about that.
But the fact is that our members are engaged in very thoughtful deliberation with each other. As I said to you before, 90% of this bill has been agreed to, House, Senate, White House, and written. We made some changes since last week. People need to familiarize themselves with it. That was the purpose of our meeting this morning. As I said, it made me very proud and was inspired by just once again hearing the depth of knowledge and breadth of vision of our colleagues. And we'll let you know, but right. I think many of you know I was really very unhappy about not passing the BIF last week. I really was very unhappy because we had an October 31st deadline, and I thought that was eloquent, but not enough, I guess. So now we're going to pass both bills, but in order to do so, we have to have votes for both bills, and that.
So we're going to pass both bills, but we have to have votes. We have to have votes to pass them. In other words, we don't. She's not admitting she doesn't have the votes. We're going to pass them both, but we have to have the votes. So all of these other iterations. Now, this is over 2,000 pages of in-depth legislation that's altering the fabric of the nation in many ways. And it's kind of that same Obamacare statement. You have to pass it to know what's in it. The same exact mentality is at work here. The same exact mentality. She can't define what's in it. Most of the people can't. It's 2,000 pages. And now the progressive wing, the more left-leaning part of her party that's even to the left of her, is the group pushing for much more social justice, climate activism in this bill. Now, again, have I read all 2,000 pages? No, but I'll challenge you. I'll bet I've read as much of it as most members of Congress, especially her party. This bill is restructuring things. They don't have the votes in the Senate. That's why simultaneously, while Nancy Pelosi is out there screaming about this, or not screaming, excuse me, she's very calm. She's very calm. She's very upset. She's not very happy. So she's calmly saying this. Paid activists are terrorizing people like Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. That's the game plan. Terrorize, make them fearful, bully them into voting, while she calmly says, and it wasn't that long ago, it was just last week, she was saying that the media's job is to go sell this program. The media's job is not to sell the program. The media's job is to report on things factually, accurately, if they can. They seem to not be as good at that lately. I mean, the whole Russian collusion thing falling apart with the Durham, people won, I talked about this earlier, people won Pulitzer Prizes reporting about Russian collusion, and now that thing seems to be falling apart completely. Is the Times, the Washington newspapers, are they going to turn their Pulitzers back in after fake reporting? Even the international media was calling them out on this. But Pelosi calmly saying, we're going to count the votes. We're going to get the votes. We're going to have a vote today. We're going to pass both bills. And meanwhile, Joe Manchin is almost simultaneously being terrorized in a garage. That's the way this is trying to be executed. And you have to wonder, I just don't know the degree to which Sinema and Manchin can safely go from point A to point B right now. You see this. This is terrifying. If you put yourself in that position where they come to your home, they surround your car, they ought to be prosecuted. This is impeding, a public official, communicating a threat to a public official. And they're very careful. These are trained. These are not just people who organically got together. They're very deliberate in their language. So they very carefully, because they have all their video cameras, they're looking for him to make a mistake. They're looking for Sinema to make a mistake, to say something and capture it on film so that they can go after them. So Manchin and Sinema have to be on their toes 24/7, regardless of their mood. They have to be in perfect form every minute that they're in public. Every minute. They can't slip up because they've got 15, 20, 30, 40 cell cameras trying to catch them in a gotcha moment. And they're very highly trained activists. They ask very specific questions. They do not. They try to avoid, and these are trained. These are not just organic. These are trained activists that use specific language. Do you care about the children? Is the money green enough? They're scripted so that they don't say things that are threatening. They act in threatening ways, but they don't say threatening things. They don't say we're going to kill you. They don't say we're going to beat you up. They don't say watch your kids. They don't say, though. They say very deliberate, trained language and try to get that gotcha moment. Impede the progress. They think it's peaceful, but it's terrorizing. So we're going to take a break here. We're going to come back with Jeff Rivenbark, a lot to talk about in the local news. We've got a full slate of guests over the next couple of hours, and looking forward to that. So we'll be right back after this here on the Big Talker FM, Mornings with Chad. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. A Bladen County Sheriff's deputy has officially resigned after being indicted by grand jury on an assault charge. Michael Shaw II is accused of assaulting a man with a large flashlight around October 8th while on duty. Shaw was arrested and placed under a $100,000 bond, but he posted bail and has been released. After getting the green light from state health officials, New Hanover County started giving COVID-19 shots to children ages 5 to 11 yesterday. They're administering the shots inside Independence Mall in Wilmington. Vaccine appointments for children at Brunswick County Health Services main clinic in Bolivia open up today. The county's health services requires written permission from a parent or legal guardian to administer vaccines to those under 16. Pender County also hopes to begin rolling out the vaccine later today. The North Carolina General Assembly has finalized maps for the state's legislative and congressional districts that are supposed to last for the next decade. The House and Senate voted yesterday for the lines drawn based on 2020 census figures. Republicans would be in good shape to retain their state legislative majorities as well as to win 10 U.S. House seats, 2 more than they currently hold. Democrats and their allies say the maps contain illegal partisan and racial gerrymanders. And a proposed high-rise housing development on the western shore of the Cape Fear River has hit a bump in the road. The Battleship Point project calls for nearly 900 apartments and condos, as well as restaurant and retail space and a hotel. If the current designs are approved, it would be the tallest structure in New Hanover County. KFJ Development Group asking the County Planning Commission to create a new zoning district known as Riverfront Urban Mixed Use. The board says it won't make a decision until they see the full project plans. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Friday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. We're going to see a quiet day on tap across the Cape Fear, expecting dry conditions and a good deal of clouds, but a few peaks of sunshine throughout the day today. And our temperatures still remaining on the cooler side, as we are going to be about 10 degrees cooler than normal, topping off in the lower 60s closer to the coast, and further inland we'll be topping off in the upper 50s this afternoon. Clouds increase tonight, and a few showers could be possible by daybreak on Saturday. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
I'm just admiring the Cape Fear River, listening to this groovy music TK's cranked up for us. And he's like, hey, Chad, you're on. It's time to get on the air and get on with it. Welcome back, folks. Glad to have you with us here in the Big Talker FM Chad Adams Show. With us right now, we have Jeff Rivenbark, he from WWAY. And good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Good morning, Chad. How are you?
The news waits for no one. Right?
It certainly does not. It keeps on going, whether we're ready for it or not.
That's right. It is. It's like the weather. Whether we like it or not, there's the weather. So, a lot going on. You guys have to cover a lot between Brunswick and Pender and even Bladen, Columbus counties into New Hanover and points northward. A lot going on. You just had the big elections this past Tuesday, these municipal elections. They don't get a lot of attention, but they do get some. And, I'll ask you about that first. I know we've got a list of things. Any takeaways from you on the elections this past Tuesday? I'm not going to dwell on it, but any takeaways, because you've been covering this for a while.
Well, I know that we interviewed last Friday Dr. Aaron King before the election, and he was telling me, voter turnout for these odd year elections like this year tend to be a little bit lower, and that's usually because it's, municipal offices. There are not as much interest for a lot of people in those offices as much as maybe a state official. If we were electing a governor or certainly, president or a higher office, that seems to draw a lot of people. And those are also partisan races. So Dr. King was telling me that with many of these municipal races, they are nonpartisan, so they don't tend to draw as many people. And I think it's also confusing for a lot of voters to know which person they want to vote for. If someone is not as engaged in the political process or following that person's, that candidate's platform, it may be hard for people to differentiate, one candidate from another and know which one they want to vote for. So I think a lot of that also weighs in on people not wanting to go and maybe vote in some of these elections. We did, Chad, however, speak with another political science professor over at UNCW. Her name is Nadine Gibson, and she's in the Public and International Affairs department of the university. And she said that nearly 24% of registered voters in New Hanover County showed up at the polls for the 2021 municipal election who were eligible to vote. That was pretty impressive. So we had a pretty good number this time around. And I think a lot of that had to do with the Wilmington mayoral race. Lots of folks wanted to weigh in on that. Certainly from the campaign ads and postcards that many of us received in the mailbox, there was a lot of money being spent on that campaign, especially for Saffo.
Right. And two former mayors. So you had, and it was interesting from as a political junkie myself to look at, Mayor Saffo, who is, at least the last check, was a Democrat, getting a challenge from his left with Harper Peterson. Harper Peterson ran a much more left-leaning, affordable housing, many of those issues that he's, climate change stuff, that he's been an activist on for some time, ran a very, you're right, both candidates had very spirited campaigns, the ads and the postcards and all of that stuff. It was an expensive race. So, and I agree with you. I think that's what drove turnout. There were a number of, in Brunswick County, I was kind of surprised when I early voted. My wife and I had voted there, and what was amazing is 64 or 67 different ballots. So if you went to early voting, 19 municipalities, I believe, and 60-plus different ballots because of different initiatives that were going on in non-municipal areas. So someone that's not in a municipality that has a bond issue or something, they would get a ballot. It was just that seems very complex.
We actually spoke with Harper Peterson, to go back to that real quickly, though, the day after the election. And Harper Peterson said that he ran for the underrepresented in the region. And he said now that he's not holding or running for political office, he plans to continue his environmental work and support other candidates that have similar values. He says, it doesn't have to be me. There are other good messengers and proponents out there that I would love to support. We have a younger generation that should step up. And that may be a good segue to another thing I wanted to bring up. In Pender County, we had a little bit of an upset there with the Burgaw mayor's race. Pete Cowan has been the mayor for many years. Several years ago, he was the mayor. Then he was not in the office for a short time, and then he's come back into that office for the last several years. But there was an upset even in the town of Burgaw with Olivia Dawson, who won that race. And, if you look at the numbers, I think each of the candidates maybe got somewhere, maybe 280 points, 80 votes. So the other candidate maybe got about 250 or 260. We're not talking like a big differential there between the winner and the loser. And that's why, again, back to Dr. Aaron King's point last week, is you can really affect change tremendously by taking part in these small municipal elections, because your vote really does matter. We hear that a lot, and I think a lot of people think, well, my vote doesn't really matter that much. But certainly in a case like what we saw in Burgaw with the mayor's race, they have a new mayor now just because there's only a few vote difference, between the winner and the loser. So it certainly does show the importance of getting out and voting. And I know last Saturday I had a chance to vote over at the Senior Center off Shipyard Boulevard in Wilmington, and there were lots of people when I drove up, and I thought, wow, this is impressive. Lots of people coming out to vote. When I was standing in line, though, I started finding out from other folks that they had some printer problems inside, and that had caused a little bit of a backlog. But it was still really nice and refreshing to see such a long line of people waiting to get into the poll to cast their vote.
One point I'd like to emphasize, those low turnout elections, you do have much more impact. A vote always matters, but it matters, it's more amplified in those. I can recall in Broadway, North Carolina, small town, center part of the state, I had a friend that was running for town council there, small town, smaller than Burgaw by far, and it was a tied election. And tied elections are decided by a game of chance, agreed to. It's like a very safe version of Squid Games. So So that what they decided was to have a coin toss, and the election was decided on a coin toss between the two candidates. Very simple, but interesting. And then in Brunswick County, like I said, all those municipalities, whenever you see turnout, usually it's symbolic of a change election. Whenever you see higher turnout, it's not defense of the status quo. It's usually a rejection of it. You saw Luke Waddell get elected here in Wilmington. Charlie Rivenbark, who had switched parties, a little bit of a news, he gets back in. So it's very interesting how the turnout does drive things. And we had quite a number of changes in Brunswick County as well. Now, on to some other things going on. Downtown Wilmington getting a new high-rise. The skyline will change. It went from the city skyline defined by church steeples to a city skyline defined by parking decks from across the river there. And now, what's this new development? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the development would be across the river from downtown Wilmington. So it would be over on the side where the battleship North Carolina is located. There's a small little sliver of land, I guess, north of the battleship.
Yep. A lot of work's been going on there for some time. A lot of cleanup work over there.
Yes, and a developer wants to build a high-rise over there that would have homes and hotel and restaurant and some retail as well. There was a meeting last night where he had to present some of the plans for what he proposes to build. The planning board, the New Hanover County Planning Board, listened to those plans, but there's still some issues and things that need to be answered. And so no decision was made last night that said we want to see the full plan before we decide whether or not to move forward with this or not. Some other folks also spoke at that meeting last night. Some environmental concerns expressed by some of the speakers that I saw in the reporting that we had on this morning. And certainly the developer, presented his plan last night as well. So it will be interesting to see what happens and if we decide to move forward with this. Now, one of the things that we're hearing is the developer says, I see this as a way of helping out with affordable housing. But, you have to ask yourself, how many affordable housing units will be in this high-rise luxury type condo? That's something that's a little bit, concerning for, I think, a number of people who are very concerned about the affordable housing shortage in the area.
Well, there's a lot. Wilmington's definitely transforming. Leland and Brunswick County is transforming. Jeff, do you have like a book in front of you or something? There seems to be some sound issue. You sound good, but there's like something moving around when you're talking. Just wanted to make you aware of it in case you weren't, because you get the advantage of being pretty on TV. So we're on radio, so we have an audio medium. So I'm face made for radio talking to you. Now, COVID mandates, getting a lot of stuff going on. The school system, Brunswick County has decided the school system mask optional. Our charter school system that I'm a part of, mask optional, pending any infection. So if a certain level of infection goes up, then they become mandatory again. I think it seems to be the guidance. In Wilmington and New Hanover County is very different than Brunswick. You see, when you travel between the two quite a bit, you notice when you go to the stores, a lot less masking in Brunswick County. And I checked the caseloads. It's still averaging about 17, 18 per day, relatively low. And the same in New Hanover County, by the way. I checked the caseloads there, even though the population's higher. It's about 20, 23. A 7-day rolling average is around that, but it's coming down, which is what we all want. So tell us what's going on with the intensity you mentioned in your note.
Well, as COVID-19 cases remain low in New Hanover County, some residents say they're ready to see the mask mandate come to an end. We spoke with a parent yesterday. Said if people feel like the mask makes them feel safer and whatever, then hey, I'm all for it. It's all about choice. People should have the choice to do what they want to do. Now, that's actually coming from Tom Toby. He is a member of the North Carolina Freedom New Hanover. He says most of his frustration comes from not being permitted to address county boards without masks, which he says is a violation of the First Amendment. So there's a lot of people, feeling like, having to wear a mask and having to wear a mask when you go before a public body, county commission or school board to voice your opinion is a violation, that it's a stipulation that, is being put on people in order to address their grievance to that governing board. Lots of people, on both sides of the issue there. But to your point, it is very confusing. I live in New Hanover County, and it's instinctive now. If I walk out of get out of my car and head to a store, and I'm like, I forgot my mask. I immediately know now to go back and get it. But yet, if I'm shopping over in Brunswick County, where WWY's TV station is located,
yes, they are.
It's like, oh, okay, I don't really need it here, and I'm wearing my mask, and I'm the only one in the Walmart or wherever that's wearing the mask at that particular time. So it is very, it's hard for people to, know when you should have it and when you shouldn't. So no decision was made this week by the Health and Human Services Board of New Hanover County. They are set to meet again next Friday to discuss the mask mandate, and then. As far as the school system, we spoke with Stephanie Adams, the board chair. She says that New Hanover County Schools plans to hold a vote on masks in schools at their meeting on November 9th. So I'm sure lots of people will probably turn out to express their opinion for or against continuing to wear masks.
And this is one thing that school boards are really taking it on the chin on a number of fronts. And, there's a lot of limiting. There seems to be an effort to limit parental input at these meetings that I'm hearing in various counties. Now, I think, like you said, New Hanover County is more reluctant. Pender and Brunswick, both mask optional from what I understand. And there are some other issues, as you know, from Loudoun County, Virginia, that are permeating, that are finding their way into North Carolina school board meetings. I don't know where that all ends up, but I have a feeling school board meetings may remain contentious for some time. Do you concur with that?
Well, it certainly feels that way, and certainly some of the school board meetings in New Hanover County in particular have been very contentious, as you say, and unruly. If you feel one way or the other against masks, you're entitled to feel the way you do and to express that. But many of these meetings that I've seen locally and also across the country and some of the national coverage that I've been watching and following as well, these meetings have gotten out of control, and the level of decorum is not there. And, these school board members are serving, because they're, I think in many cases, many of them, their heart's in the right place. They want to serve and make their communities and their school systems better. But, they get to plan to run for office and have to be in a position like this where they're being attacked by the public, for the decisions that are made as a whole by the governing body. So, it is very interesting to see, how some of these meetings have been very unruly, and to see how the school boards are trying to limit how many people can come in at a time or whatever to try to, make it through the meeting so they can, these meetings last for hours, so, they can tend to drag on if there's not some type of order and protocol in place.
I don't disagree. I'll push back a little bit on you. Having served as a county commissioner for 8 years, we had public comment period, and people had to sign up at the meeting. Now, some of these meetings are kind of bizarre because they're forcing people to sign up online. It may be due to COVID. It may be due to any number of I'm not going to judge them for the way in which they're doing it. But we would allow anybody to sign up and virtually talk about anything. There were certain rules. You can't personally attack, the sitting elected officials. You can't engage in discussion. It's there for public comment, not public questions necessarily. And I think some of these, and I agree with you, they become quite unruly, but I think there's some responsibility on both sides. If a school board doesn't allow someone to speak, then there's a lot of pushback against that because it looks like people are trying to be, censored. On the other hand, there is the responsibility of the public to act with some sense of decorum. I agree. And so you should be, we had people that would talk to us on flat earth. They would talk, any number of food that wasn't available in the community, any number of issues. It just is a public comment period. It was limited to 2 or 3 minutes, and depending on the meeting sometimes. But everyone was allowed. That's the thing. Everyone was allowed. And in a free society, you should be able to act with some sense of decorum towards your elected officials. Unlike what's happening to Joe Manchin, where he can't even drive his car out of a garage. The school board meetings need to have some decorum. But to your point, I think you would concur that there needs to be some decorum. You said that literally, so I appreciate that. Now we're going to take a break, continue our discussion with Jeff Rivenbark from WWAY. We're going to talk about some fun stuff going on. Halloween's over, the election's over, the new elections are starting, but there's still a lot of stuff going on in the region. We're going to continue our discussion with Jeff Rivenbark from WWAY here on the Chad Adams Show. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina. Practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Tune in to the WWAY News at 6 p.m.
Thank you for joining us tonight for your News at 6. I'm Hannah Patrick.
I'm Randy Aldridge. We want to get straight to our WWAY team coverage of last night.
For the biggest and most compelling stories that make a difference.
On the scene shortly after the blaze began and has the story now.
Leland is one of the fastest growing towns in the country.
First court appearance this morning in Pender County.
WWAY News at 6 p.m. This is the place.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
I'm State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better state. We are one of the fastest growing and most reviewed insurance agencies in Wilmington. That's because our customers love the personalized attention that we give to you. Let us help you get to a better state by visiting our website at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Government has become too big, too overtaxing, and is constantly over-regulating every aspect of your life.
If you agree with that, tune into Consumer Choice Radio every Saturday at 10 a.m. here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM with me, Yael Osowski.
And me, David Clement. For an hour, you'll get expert analysis on what the government is sinking its teeth into next and how you, as a consumer, can push back.
ConsumerChoiceRadio.com.
Though we have all heard the nickname Tar Heels given to North Carolinians, not everyone knows its connection to the war between the states. North Carolina had been well known as a leading supplier of tar and pitch, used in shipbuilding since colonial times. During one battle, a regiment of North Carolinians met troops from another state who were retreating. One of them jokingly asked, "Is there any tar left in the old North State?" To which a North Carolinian replied, "Jeff Davis bought it all to put on your heels so you'll stick better in the next fight." Upon hearing of the incident, General Robert E. Lee said, "God bless the Tar Heel boys." From that day forward, North Carolinians have proudly carried the name Tar Heels as a part of their Confederate heritage. This message has been brought to you by the North Carolina Division of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, who encourage everyone to learn more about and help preserve their precious Southern heritage.
Good morning. Continuing our discussion with Jeff Rivenbark of WWAY. All things Southeast region, all things Cape Fear region. And, you know, as much as there's contentious stuff out there, underneath the current of political intrigue and debauchery, there's actually a lot of great things that happen in this region where we go and we don't really care what the political leanings are of folks. And they're interesting events, whether they're in Brunswick County or New Hanover, Pender. So a big one's going on right now. And Jeff, tell us what's going on.
Yeah, there are lots of events happening this weekend, but I've been talking with our meteorologist, Ramel Carpenter, this morning. The forecast this morning kind of took a step a little bit more intense this weekend with unsettled weather. So if you do have outdoor plans this weekend, you might want to also have some indoors because we could be dealing with a lot of rain. Of course, the Cape Fear Fair and Expo is still going on. This is the last weekend for the fair. We spoke with Skip Watkins last week when they were doing some of the setup for the fair, and lots of their exhibits and things are under tents, so that's good. Certainly the rides are outside, so you'll get wet if you're outside when, it starts to rain or whatever. Today is going to be pretty good out there from what I understand. So if you were thinking about going to the Cape Fear Fair and Expo and you put it off, today may be your best day to do that. Tomorrow looks like it could be a little bit more unsettled. Sunday, maybe possibly better.
Yeah, 50% tomorrow, 40%. This is from your WWAYTV3.com AccuWeather forecast. So, yeah, 50% chance tomorrow and 40% chance on Sunday. Still, the temperatures a little bit on the cool side. Highs in the 60s, unusual for us. I mean, it happens, but it's 61 still quite cool. But they usually do a fantastic job. For people who didn't get a chance to go to the state fair, this one is a rather large. Having been to a lot of county fairs around the state, this is a pretty impressive version. Usually county fairs are before the state fair, but this Cape Fear Expo is fair and expo is quite nice. So Cape Fear, it's hard to say that sometimes. Cape Fear Fair and Expo, but that's going on. Do you know of any other stuff that's going on in the region?
Yes, the Carolina Cup is taking place at Rice Bowl Beach, and from what I understand, this is like 13 or 14 miles. These athletes will be on paddleboards, and they'll be out on the ocean. The home base for all of the activities is the Blockade Runner Hotel. So they'll be leaving from there, going out in the ocean, paddleboarding, and then making their way into the Intracoastal Waterway, and then coming back out to the ocean. We're talking 13 to 14
Have you
miles.
been paddleboarding before?
I have never been paddleboarding. Okay. I've always wanted to do it, but not 13 to 14 miles.
Let me tell you, if you haven't done it before, having done it, I've done it very few times. But the thing that is most mystifying about paddleboarding to me, and I've tried surfing and boogie boarding and done quite a bit of other stuff, those on the sand. But it is amazing to me how difficult skimboarding. I did a lot of skimboarding back many years ago. But the amazing thing about a paddleboard is it works your ankles to death. Everything from your knees down. I mean, it's balance and all that, but you don't realize that you're adjusting your balance because you're on an unstable surface a million times.
Right.
So I did it for probably a mile. And I would say that it's really neat. It's a great experience, very tranquil. But I was at the Intercoastal Waterway in a marsh, perfectly level, flat. When you go out in the ocean, that's an entirely different. That is like surfing and paddleboarding at the same time. 13, 14 miles. I would not be, after 2 miles, the next day, I would not be able, I would have to be in a wheelchair. So you're right. Exactly. When you say 13, 14 miles on a paddleboard, that is staggering. So the people that do those.
And also with the weather we're expecting this weekend, it's
a wave.
It's pretty choppy up, so. My hat's off to those folks. If you want to see some really good athletes in action, you ought to head down to Wrightsville Beach and check it out.
I won't take my boat out in the ocean if it's more than like a 1 foot. There's no way I'm going out the Cape Fear out in the ocean. Depending on, because the weather can turn so quickly. On a paddleboard, hell no, I'm just not going to do it. So I appreciate you sharing that with us, and Jeff, I appreciate you being a part of the broadcast this morning. Okay, look forward to talking to you next week.
Sure. Have a great day.
Jeff Reidenbach, WWAY TV3. You can find out more about them, obviously, at their station and also online at WWAYTV3.com. Now, on the other side of the break, we're going to be talking to Mayor Bill Saffo, who just won re-election, where he'll be part of our broadcast. We'll talk to him about what that was like, where he'd like to go, what he thinks the changes in the city are going to be like. They're going to have a new city manager. There's a lot going on. Development, they're competing with Leland. They're kind of reacting, or are they proactive or reactive to what's going on in Brunswick County? We'll ask him those questions along with many more. Also, in the following half hour, we'll be talking to Mayor-elect Liz White from Oak Island. She just recently elected, and some people would say kind of an upset. She took out an incumbent there, so we'll talk with her. Much more to go, and Representative Charlie Miller, then a special announcement. We got a big show. Stay tuned. Much more to go here on this Friday here on the Big Talker FM.
Keeping Charlotte informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
Dad! Come on! Over here! Look at this, Dad! Over! Whoa.
The moment my son saw a redwood tree
It's huge!
is the moment I knew that for him,
You can't even see the top of that thing.
even the sky has no limit.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go, like hiking, biking, fishing, or camping. Or do your own thing when you get there with family and friends. Your moment is out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org. That's discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Package in addition to a $1 trillion infrastructure bill. Even if the so-called Build Back Better plan does clear the House, it will run into a solid wall of Republican opposition in the 50-50 Senate, along with reservations from moderate Democrats like West Virginia's Joe Manchin. They want to know more about what's actually in the 2,000-page bill. The White House confirms it. The Biden administration is negotiating big money payouts to illegal alien families separated at the border as the Trump administration enforced federal immigration laws. The only thing in dispute is the amount of the payments, initially reported at $450,000 per child. Texas Republican Congressman Michael McCall telling Fox's Neil Cavuto it's outrageous.
I think it's a principle. You can't break our laws and then win the lottery. And the message of deterrence is pretty much gone.
The Biden administration suing the state of Texas over a law that Governor Greg Abbott says makes it easier to vote and harder to cheat.
Election integrity is now law.
The Texas election integrity law, signed by the governor in September, among other things, it expands voting hours and makes ballot harvesting a third-degree felony. The Justice Department claims it violates the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Atlanta will celebrate the World Series champion Braves. Big parade later today, stepping off at noon, proceeding north through the city into suburban Cobb County. 1 million people expected to take part in day-long celebrations of the Braves' first World Series title since 1995. Watching Wall Street this morning, stock futures higher, Dow futures up 52 points, NASDAQ futures ahead 20, S&P futures 10 points higher. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Your pets have the same energy they used to? Do they have problems with itching, scratching, a dull coat, or goopy ears? Then your pets need Dinovite.
DINOVITE.com.
For over 20 years, pet owners have trusted Dinovite to supplement their pet's diet.
We started Dinovite, and in our first box, we noticed a difference.
Dinovite is an all-natural daily supplement made from whole foods that help support your pet's immune system, digestion, skin, and coat.
Within 3 weeks, he's not scratching and itching, and he's an all-around happier dog.
Today's commercial pet foods are processed at high temperatures, which bakes out all the essential goodness. These processed foods can lack the essential vitamins, enzymes, and probiotics that contribute to overall good health. Adding a scoop of Dinovite to your pet's food bowl is the answer.
If you love your pets as much as I do, you'll want to do what's best for them to live long, healthy, happy lives.
I have 2 cats and 2 dogs. All 4 of them are on the Dinovite.
You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
DINOVITE.com.
Biden climate change envoy John Kerry says a fund aimed at helping developing countries cope with the impact of climate change will reach its goals sooner than expected.
World leaders had agreed in Paris to provide $100 billion to developing countries every year starting in 2020. That target wasn't met, and the latest estimates suggested it wouldn't be reached until 2023. But, speaking in Scotland, John Kerry said they'd now raised enough money to begin financing poorer nations by next year. Mr. Kerry said he'd felt a new sense of urgency and possibility at the UN Climate Summit in Glasgow. But he warned that trillions more dollars in private finance needs to be unlocked.
The BBC's Anna Aslam. China blasting a press freedom survey from the Hong Kong Foreign Correspondents Club finds nearly half its members considering leaving the city. Survey says the members concerned about a decline in press freedoms under the sweeping national security law. News and analysis, townhall.com. Colin Powell, to be remembered today by family and friends, a funeral at the Washington National Cathedral.
Powell rose from humble beginnings to become the first black chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and later served as the first black Secretary of State. He'll be eulogized by Madeleine Albright, who preceded him as the nation's top diplomat, Richard Armitage, who was Deputy Secretary under Powell, and Powell's son Michael. Powell died 2.5 weeks ago of complications of COVID-19 at the age of 84. He had been vaccinated against the coronavirus, but his family says his immune system had been compromised by multiple myeloma, a blood cancer for which he had been undergoing treatment. Mike Hemp in Washington.
We will be getting the latest monthly employment report in just a little while. We'll see how things fared for the month of October. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Please stand by.
We now take you live to the Institute of Rational Thought for a special broadcast. Hard-hitting interviews and relevant information to make your day. It's Chad Adams.
So we coordinated with the mayor's staff, and we appreciate it. By the way, they've been fantastic, and we're awaiting his call. So Mayor Saffo, if you're out there, and he's a busy guy, so I don't doubt that, but we're awaiting his call anytime, because this election, I think there's a lot to discuss, and I've known him for many years and had him in studio many times, even through the Ball Stadium. I don't know how many folks remember the Ball Stadium issue here when he had been a part of that here in the Wilmington, when the original Big Talker was a vivid part of that entire endeavor that was an epic. I tell you what, the charter of the city of Wilmington, this is the weird part. Not the weird part. Wilmington has, as part of its charter, that it allows, if a certain number of citizens sign something, they can have a referendum on some things. It's one of the interesting things. All cities don't have that. Wilmington happens to be one that's written into their charter, the charter for the city. And so when that Ball Stadium came apart, some intrepid folks found that. And they went out and got the signatures, which put the Ball Stadium on a referendum. And once it became a referendum issue, then the citizen, it was defeated, at least in the boondoggle was. Imagine what the city would be carrying that through COVID. It would have been a nightmare. Is the mayor on?
Yes. I'm not the mayor. Some people call me the mayor, but I'm not the mayor.
Oh, who is this?
This is one of your cousins from Columbus County. Hey, so this is your full-time gig now? You back?
It is for now. For now. I may be making but thank you.
Hope your mother's well.
She
is.
I'll
get off the line.
No,
good.
No, but thank you. So what makes you call this morning?
So I hope the mayor realizes the people that got him elected this year and doesn't forget that. He now has a block of people who can help him point the city in the right direction. Kevin O'Grady has finally gone away. So he had the backbone that the mayor has been lacking, has now been voted in by the citizens of the city of Wilmington. And I hope he takes that and runs with it and fixes the problem that we were having in the city and we've been having in the city. There are homeless camps on 3rd Street. There are people sleeping on the front steps of the courthouse. There are people sleeping on the front steps of Alien Hall. We've got some serious issues, and it's time to quit talking and start doing. And I'm glad you're back, man.
And a new city manager out there. And it's good. I love that cousin from Columbus County. I have many that permeate into Brunswick County. It's nice to have family that goes back like 100-plus years in Columbus and Brunswick, in this region. And it's so funny. My mother was a Wright, and I always love saying, my mother was a Wright, my dad was an Adams, and that makes me half right. And to which people just love that. My mother was completely right. So it's interesting. Every time I go to Columbus County, it's amazing the number of folks you're related to, Columbus, Brunswick, and having that network. And that'll become critical moving forward on another announcement that we'll talk about later in the broadcast. But Mayor Saffo, if you're out there, I did communicate with the staff. I've let them know, called in. So other folks called in. It's 299-7535, 299-7535. And the mayor we're waiting for. So Bill just got reelected. Interestingly, he mentioned Kevin O'Grady being gone. Kevin O'Grady, probably one of the most left-leaning members the city council has seen. There's a distinction between former city councilwoman Laura Padgett. I got to know Laura Padgett quite well while she was in, and she really cared about Parks and Rec. And to her credit, I think Laura Padgett, she really did believe in a lot of the things. So having a debate with her was never personal. And I think Kevin O'Grady had a different edge to him. Councilman O'Grady had there was a little anger often with Councilman O'Grady. And now with Luke Waddell in there's going to be a new city manager. I think leadership does start at the top. I think Wilmington needs to have a very innovative type city manager, a different leadership paradigm. I think the last one was very stagnant. And, with Sterling Cheatham's departure, there's an opportunity for Wilmington to take an entirely different direction, depending on which way they go. Now, if they go with kind of a wokest culture, a reactive culture, then Wilmington's not really going to go very far. If it goes with an innovative, pro-business approach, there are many things that will create opportunities and success. Nothing eradicates a lot of problems in society like success. It really doesn't. Better jobs, good jobs, retraining opportunities, better streets, all of the infrastructure that you need that Wilmington's neglected in many ways could be, completely reversed. You look at some of the communities in Brunswick County that are doing very well. You look at Leland. There used to be a joke when I was in college back in 1,000 years ago. So there was a joke back then in the late 80s when we would say, hey, did you hear about the tornado that hit Leland and did $100,000 in capital improvements? That was kind of the joke back then. Or there were ones about Regalwood, which I won't repeat on the air. But now you look at Leland and you look at the approach that many folks have taken, and the business community has been loud and clear. We want your business. We want to create an environment in which businesses can grow, thrive, flourish. We want to have low taxes. Brunswick County has very low taxes. So it's a great place, and there's plenty of room to grow. Wilmington has infill, but it doesn't have, it's largely developed. So the issue for Wilmington is redevelopment. It has opportunities to take lots and redevelop those entrepreneurs. And there are a lot of people that are out there. I know some that I've met with over the past couple of weeks that they acquire property and they renovate and they completely upfit and make things look beautiful. And Wilmington can do those kind of things. And Wilmington still has many great days ahead, but it's going to be a challenge. They have to get on it, and they have to have some proactive leadership. So, as I compare these two counties and cities, even the county, from a county perspective, it's going to need this leadership paradigm of as Julia Bozeman, county commission chair, had said, her responsibility is to take care of all the citizens. No, it's actually not. The responsibility is to protect citizens. Largely, government's role should be to get out of the way, provide infrastructure and get out of the way, and have police and fire. But the sheriff in a given county is the one that's responsible. It's interesting. Sheriff historically is serve papers and run the jail. All of the extra law enforcement stuff that sheriffs do these days is assumed. It was never part of the original. The high sheriff, people, if you study history at all, it goes back to medieval times. You'll remember in the tale of Robin Hood, the sheriff of Nottingham. He was the high sheriff. They were tax collectors back in the day. That's what the whole issue was. He was overcollecting. The sheriff was overcollecting taxes, and Robin Hood was, going after it. So, but the sheriffs are responsible now, have assumed the duties of law enforcement. And sheriffs have become very powerful offices in every county in which they operate. They get set up long enough, they become very, very powerful. So just a reminder, county commissions are designed to kind of open up the doors rather than close them. County commissions should, as Julia Bozeman, some of the comments from the New Hanover Council, by the way, have been less approachable. And yet you have a county that opens the doors, one like Brunswick that kind of opens the doors more and keeps a low tax rate. And by the way, a lot of Brunswick County is tax deferred. People don't realize that. If you have more than 10 acres in some kind of agricultural purpose, and that can mean growing trees, you get a deferral. So a lot of the land in Brunswick County doesn't even generate much in taxes. But if it were not for the coastal properties, Bald Head, Ocean Isle, Sunset, Calabash, all of these, Oak Island, Carolina Shores, if you were to shear off those coastal entities from Brunswick, it wouldn't look substantially different than Columbus or Bladen. It would have many more challenges. So those beach communities, the tourists that it draws, the feel, the look, and Southport has to be very careful. Southport is now, with its leadership, it declared war. It acted like developers were horrible, and even though it survives on short-term rentals, it has a war on short-term rentals. It's afraid of folks renting stuff. Southport needs to be very careful. They've had petitions circulating against the 4th of July festival. They seem to want to do what so many people do. Now, we're going to take a quick break and come back. I think we may have the mayor on the phone, but we're going to take a quick break and come right back after this, and hopefully we'll be joined by Mayor Saffo or a different caller. Stay tuned. We may have the mayor on the phone, but we're going to take a quick break and come right back, and hopefully we'll be joined by Mayor Saffo or a different caller. Stay tuned.
I'm K.O. Davis from K.O.'s Coast to Coast Tree, and I want to be your tree man.
When your trees need cut, 2 letters to know. One is a K, the other is an O. K.O.
Tree man.
Proper trimming is the most important thing that you can do, so don't just hire anybody to do it. You need someone that knows what they're doing.
K.O.
Call the professionals at K.O.'s Coast to Coast Tree and visit KOTrees.com.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina, practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Hey, this is Matt Ham, co-founder of Uprint and the co-host of Wake Up Our Faith, every Saturday and Sunday right here on Wilmington's Big Talker. We invite you to join with our nonprofit movement by participating in the Portable Faith Community. This is a $10 a month tax-deductible contribution, and you get access to daily encouragement, resources, as well as our prayer community. You can go to wakeupmyfaith.com to get subscribed and learn more. That's wakeupmyfaith.com.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
Hey, I'm Yael Osowski.
And I'm David Clement.
We're the host of Consumer Choice Radio, broadcasting every Saturday at 10 a.m. here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Consumer Choice Radio is a weekly conversation featuring the latest news, interviews, and expert analysis that covers consumer topics from around the world.
ConsumerChoiceRadio.com.
Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
So now we're hopeful. Caller, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hello.
Mayor Bill Saffo. How the heck are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing, Chad?
I am fantastic as well, man. Congratulations on your latest win, for lack of a better phrase. Congratulations on your reelection.
Thank you, Chad. Appreciate it very much.
That was a tough challenge from a former mayor. I know you have been friends with Harper over the years. I've said on the air that you had a challenge from your left. I never kind of expected that to happen, but all things in politics are meant to be unexpected, I guess. So, looking ahead now, you're reelected. It was a convincing win, by the way. So you're getting a new city manager, have some new council members on board, some familiar faces, folks you've worked with over the years. What's your take on where Wilmington is going now?
Well, looking back at the election results, myself, Councilmember Rivenbark, and Councilmember Barnett being the incumbents were all reelected, and I think that speaks very well for the direction of where the city's headed. I believe that the citizens spoke loud and clear on November the 2nd and said, we like what you folks have been doing. Obviously, there's always been concerns about issues in respect to growth with one of the fastest growing regions in the state of North Carolina. So we'll be focusing a lot of attention on those particular issues that impact our community, especially with transportation, and how do we work with the Department of Transportation in an environment where we're seeing an additional 1 million people that are projected to be coming into the state of North Carolina within the next 10 years, and with the majority of the roadways, the major roadways in the city being owned by the department, and how do we work with the state legislature and try to find some ways to fund some of the issues that are impacting the higher growth areas of our state. In addition to that, we're looking forward to working with the new elected council member, Luke Waddell, who I think who I've met with and feel very strongly that he's going to do a great job for our community. Nice young man and a small business owner in the community, gets a lot of the issues that impact small businesses, and is eager to roll up his sleeves and work with us as a group to see what we can do to resolve some of the issues facing our community in our region.
And you have the council. Now, interestingly enough, the council did take a little bit of a right turn. I wouldn't say extreme by any stretch. Charlie Rivenbark, Councilman Rivenbark, came out and changed parties. Did not. I mean, that upset some folks, but it made some other folks excited. He's had a fairly conservative record. So it didn't affect his reelection. And you have Councilman Neil Anderson, who was one of the first Republicans in quite some time to get on the council, and then with Luke Waddell, and then yourself. So do you see that changing the direction? I mean, with those three council members and the existing ones, do you see that changing the direction at all of where the council might be headed as it gets a new city manager and sets up shop?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know until we get in there and we start working with each other. But I would say that this council has been, for all intents and purposes, a pretty pro-business council over the years. And with the amount of businesses that have opened up in Wilmington and the businesses that are looking to relocate here to our community, it speaks volumes as to what we've been able to do as a city and as a county in making this a desirable place for businesses to want to open and operate the business. In the last 10 years, we've opened up over 30,000 businesses in New Hanover County, and of course, the majority of those are in the city of Wilmington. And I think that the investments that we have made have attracted a lot of people. I will tell you first and foremost, and I believe this will be on council's mind from the get-go, is public safety. If you don't have a safe community, and if you don't support your police and your sheriff's departments, you're not going to have people want to invest in the community or move to your community. And I think that those, men and women that are out there on the front lines protecting us need to be given an adjusted raise. We don't want to be training police officers and losing them to other municipalities that are paying a higher rate, and I believe that they deserve that. And that will be one of the first things that I'll be working on, and I believe a lot of the council members will be working on, is how do we take care of our public safety personnel, our fire and police that do a tremendous job for our community. That was one of the discussions we had during this election cycle, and I will tell you, we did see an uptick, in 2020 with murders and with crime, and we've done a much better job in this year than we did last year. But I will tell you, I think that those men and women deserve a raise.
So there's a lot of great things that are happening in Wilmington. You look at some of the growth that's going on. It's obviously a great place to be, very diverse, cultural, great food, a lot of other things. But in the meantime, we do know that there's a serious homeless problem. There's some serious streets that are in disrepair. You drive up and down Market Street, it's in terrible shape. You look at these kind of challenges, and unfortunately those gunshot microphones that are set up in the city have reflected quite a bit of crime and gang issues. So how do you see that? Again, that's not on you entirely, but the direction of the city with the police department and the incoming city manager and the public works department. How do you see all that coming together?
Well, I know in this past year's budget, we've allocated or appropriated about $29 million for road repairs. We took a tremendous hit after Hurricane Florence with 103 inches of rain that particular year. And this just trying to get to all of those roads that need to be worked on in the city has taken some time. And we appropriated as much money as we felt that we possibly could, and also take care of other services in our community. But that's going to have. We think we can get ahead of it this particular year. In some of the major roadways like Market that you were talking about, Chad, I mean, that's something that the state of North Carolina is going to have to step up on. And I know that they've had some struggles at DOT with the issues that happened with the MAP Act and the lawsuits that took place in the aftermath of that. We're just like any other region of the state that is growing dramatically. We've got pressures, and a lot of those pressures are we've got about 50,000 people a day that come into the community that are not citizens of Wilmington, that live in the outlying areas. We're beginning to see that same thing that happened in Raleigh, same thing happened in Charlotte. where you're starting to see the small hamlets and towns and townships around are starting to grow because that's where the availability of land is. That's where affordable housing is going. But we're seeing a lot of that traffic that comes into the city every single day, people coming in, for their jobs, which is a good thing because we're also getting, tax revenue from sales taxes and people have created jobs in the community. But I believe that we as a region have got to be starting to speak with one voice. And you saw some of that in the aftermath of what happened with the discussion about tolling the Memorial Bridge, where you saw both sides of the Cape Fear that came together and said, we do not want a toll bridge on an existing roadway. So we've got some issues that we'll be working through, but I'm fairly confident in the council that we have in place, and I think that it will probably take a little bit more of a right turn as opposed to some of the other things that we've been working on in the last couple of years. But I think it's a good council. I think it's a good makeup of a cross section of the community that we represent. And I think that we'll do a good job.
I appreciate, you sharing that and being a part of things as well. Wilmington has its challenges, as any city does. A mayor, the frustrating part for many folks that they don't understand is the mayor, generally has a vote in a tie situation. And I'm not being diminishing what a mayor does. It's kind of a figurehead. Whenever there's something going on, the cameras run to, hey, Mayor Saffo, what's going on here? Middle of the night, Mayor Saffo, what's going on here? So, this is, I don't even know how many terms you've been in office for, seems like 12 years or so now, maybe longer.
This is my 8th term, Chad, and in the state of North Carolina, most of the municipal elections, the mayor, for some crazy reason, the way that I guess it was set up, run every 2 years as opposed to every 4 years. Council members have 4-year terms, so I'm always running. It's
that's
like
right. So
election. The state legislature, I'm running every 2 years.
The 2023 campaign's already underway. Congrats. And Mayor, Mayor, I appreciate you taking the time. I know by the way, your staff was fantastic in helping us. I do want to mention that Dawn Grants did a great job of helping us coordinate this, and appreciate you taking the time, okay?
Thank you, Chad. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a great one. So a couple things, a couple notes, and this is kind of a hat tip apology. When you're the new host, if you've been in the host job forever, you've got the flow and ebb and flow of things. When you're the new host, you've kind of got to get back into the groove. So this is your host trying to get back in the groove. And so special shout out to Liz White. I'm going to call you at the bottom of the hour because we have a scheduled guest that is all my fault. This is the show host fault. Cameron Moore's here with the Home Builders Association, the Wilmington Home Builders Association, who has been a long-term guest on the program on Friday mornings. This is my fault, not his, not Mayor-elect Liz White. So I'm going to call Liz. We're going to have her on today, but it'll be later in the broadcast. So we will have her on, if possible, later on. And so I know they need to get it out there and tell their folks that she's going to be on. And so we will take care of that. So I did want to make a special note that Liz White will be I'm trying to get her rescheduled this morning. This is my fault. And Cameron is here, and we're going to have a spirited discussion. And Cameron, just in the quick minute before we get to the bottom of the hour, are there a lot of implications for this last election for you guys? Home building is crazy right now. I'm in the process of building one. A lot of implications in this election on the municipal side?
Very much so. I mean, essentially what it is, we saw the city speak as far as what they want to see the city look like, as far as a short-term future, long-term future. So it was a very, very important election for us. We are happy with the results as far as the industry goes. And we can certainly jump into it as we get into the show. But yes, it was a very important election.
So again, that's just a tease. Cameron Moore from the Wilmington Home Builders Association will be joining us at the bottom of the hour. We're going to, in fact, I'll take a little bit of a break. We go a little earlier, so we're going to do that now. And we'll be back. Cameron Moore from the Wilmington Home Builders Association. Much more to go here. Charlie Miller, Representative Charlie Miller. Hopefully Liz White. If not, then she's going to be on early next week. But I'll try to get her today. So join us in a few moments. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. A Bladen County Sheriff's deputy has officially resigned after being indicted by grand jury on an assault charge. Michael Shaw II is accused of assaulting a man with a large flashlight around October 8th while on duty. Shaw was arrested and placed under a $100,000 bond, but he posted bail and has been released. After getting the green light from state health officials, New Hanover County started giving COVID-19 shots to children ages 5 to 11 yesterday. They're administering the shots inside Independence Mall in Wilmington. Vaccine appointments for children at Brunswick County Health Services main clinic in Bolivia open up today. The county's health services requires written permission from a parent or legal guardian to administer vaccines to those under 16. Pender County also hopes to begin rolling out the vaccine later today. The North Carolina General Assembly has finalized maps for the state's legislative and congressional districts that are supposed to last for the next decade. The House and Senate voted yesterday for the lines drawn based on 2020 census figures. Republicans would be in good shape to retain their state legislative majorities as well as to win 10 U.S. House seats, 2 more than they currently hold. Democrats and their allies say the maps contain illegal partisan and racial gerrymanders. And a proposed high-rise housing development on the western shore of the Cape Fear River has hit a bump in the road. The Battleship Point project calls for nearly 900 apartments and condos, as well as restaurant and retail space and a hotel. If the current designs are approved, it would be the tallest structure in New Hanover County. KFJ Development Group asking the County Planning Commission to create a new zoning district known as Riverfront Urban Mixed Use. The board says it won't make a decision until they see the full project plans. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Friday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Well, we're going to see a quiet day on tap across the Cape Fear, expecting dry conditions and a good deal of clouds, but a few peaks of sunshine throughout the day today. And our temperatures still remaining on the cooler side, as we are going to be about 10 degrees cooler than normal, topping off in the lower 60s closer to the coast, and further inland we'll be topping off in the upper 50s this afternoon. Clouds increase tonight, and a few showers could be possible by daybreak on Saturday. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Hey, this is Matt Ham, co-founder of Uprint Faith and Personal Development. Join myself and Kevin Adams every Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Wilmington's Big Talker for a fun, uplifting conversation about the upside of upside-down living.
You're playing Mr. Rogers. You are playing Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. That's the intro music you picked.
We used to have Van Halen.
Talking about how?
Huh?
We used to have Van Halen.
I know. Well, no, he throws some stuff out there that I have to hold the headphones away from my head about 10 inches or lose an eardrum. But we're glad. It's Mr. Cameron's neighborhood. How's that? Cameron Moore. Mr. Cameron Moore's neighborhood. Wilmington Home Builders Association. Welcome.
Welcome. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. And I hope you are. Implications elections you mentioned in the tease before the bottom of the hour. By the way, letting all listeners know, Mayor-elect Liz White from Oak Island will be joining us at the bottom of the next hour, 9:30, in the 9:30 segment from 9:35 on. She'll be joining us. So I've spoken to the Mayor-elect. She will be joining us. I want to let everybody know that's what's going on. Cameron Moore is our normal Friday guest, and as a new host, glad to have him in the studio. And I've actually interviewed you before.
Yeah.
Maybe more than once. But, you guys, it's so amazing to me the way in which home builders, developers get attacked on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. We need food. Nobody attacks grocery stores. We need clothing. Nobody attacks people that make clothing. But for some reason, the people who provide the roof over our head get attacked on a regular basis. And, but at the same time, everyone's glad to have that home, that new home. They're working, they've saved. It's a big deal. Home ownership's kind of the American dream. So, what's your take on where we're headed? It seems like there's always a war against home builders.
Well, I mean, I think the challenge with our industry is, first of all, trying to have folks realize that it's no different than anybody else's job. Just the same thing that I'm doing here this morning and the same thing you're doing here this morning, that's their job. That is their profession. The challenge with that profession, though, is that many times it is in the public's eye. In other words, that we provide not only the housing and the roofs over folks' heads, But we do it in a manner sometimes that, people look at and scrutinize very much so, from environmental situations, traffic situations, infrastructure situations. But then you got to kind of look at that on their side. It's like, okay, well, you wouldn't be able to flush the toilet a lot of times without the water and sewer. Well, how did you get water and sewer? The developer put it in and gave it to the CFPUA or gave it to the local municipality or the county. So, I mean, it's certainly a balancing act. And every election has a consequence. We made our members know that very much so in this particular municipal election, particularly here in the city of Wilmington. All elections have consequences. We had elections. I mean, we had elections across. You've got the mayor coming on from Oak Island. Every election this time around had a consequence, and we got involved in pretty much about every one of them. We spanned the difference as far as the city of Wilmington getting involved. We got involved in a lot of Brunswick County races as well. And mainly got involved because our members were struggling to do exactly what they do, their profession.
Right.
And that's the challenge. I was talking to one of the city council, new city council elect members yesterday, and he, made a point to me. He said, Cameron, the voters have spoken. He's currently not on the city council, so I think you could probably deduct really quick who this is. But at the same time, he got the highest votes. He was the highest vote getter. And so, that's kind of resonated with me, in a sense that as we look at the municipal elections here in the city of Wilmington, it was very important. Our paths were either we go this way or we go that way. There was no in between. It was right or left. It was clear to us. It was clear to us as the development community. I've said this before on the show. I know that Wilmington thinks they've seen growth. They haven't seen anything yet. And I say that in a manner to where we're going to see more vertical construction. We're already starting to see it. It's right behind your window right here in the studio this morning. We're going to start seeing more vertical construction. We now have a riverfront mixed-use zoning district that's being looked at in the county to go across right here on the Battleship. We're looking at the Battleship here this morning. There's a proposed project there. There's been a couple proposed projects on that.
We talked about one earlier with Jeff Reidenbach from WKY.
Right, and so I mean, we have seen growth here in Wilmington. But we're going to start seeing a lot of basically what I would say is a different type of growth here in Wilmington. And we have to have the elected officials that understand that and basically understand how can we make it happen, but also make it happen in harmony with the city.
Well, certainly the challenges in Brunswick, this area, this region, not just here, but all up and down the coast. Whereas in the mountains you have slope ordinances and things of that nature.
Right.
Here, the building can be related to soil issues.
Right.
The soil can be great. It can be terrible. You've got water intrusion issues. You've got distance from the water, depending on you're near a waterway, you're near the ocean or whatever. There are height restrictions. There's so many. There's impact. You have to have certain impact glass. There's so many rules and regulations that you guys have to deal with. Now, the EPA is not, depending on who's in the administration at any given time, the EPA it can be there to help, or it can be there to hinder.
Correct.
And the same thing with the Department of Natural Resources, it used to be Diener, I think it's just Natural Resources now. But, I noticed in your notes you mentioned the Waters of the United States Act. Now, I'm only familiar with that because of the determination as to what's navigable and who owns the underneath the waters, because it had to do with where dam construction was and power. But when I saw it pop up in your note, I was kind of intrigued because I'm not familiar with some of the other stuff in it. I'm very familiar with the navigation issues about who owns underneath a river. How does this impact you guys?
Well, I mean, essentially what has ended up happening is the pendulum swung from both sides. I mean, in the Trump administration, the definition changed and changed, quite frankly, for the better. Navigable waters is fine as far as it's navigable. Chad, my interpretation and your interpretation probably means that we can put a boat in it and probably go full speed ahead.
All the way up.
Until it's unnavigable.
Yeah,
until it's unnavigable. That's where we get into the question of what is navigable and unnavigable. Ditches. And ditches have become something that has become to where we have this pond or this stream or this river, and then we have a connection point. And that's the big issue with a lot of what's going on now with the waters of the United States. In the Trump administration, as I mentioned a minute ago, we had definitional changes that finally, I think, presented some clarity to WOTUS, the waters of the United States. But then exactly what happened, and we knew was going to happen, the Biden administration came in, and we've watched the pendulum swing all the way. So, I mean, we've gone from one administration to another administration with no balance in between. And in our industry, that is very problematic.
And costly.
And it costs a lot of money.
It'll make the cost, it'll make more lots People have the lot, they think they're going to build their dream home, and then it's unbuildable.
Especially if you're caught in the middle of it.
Yes.
If you're in the permitting process, what we're seeing now is that, and it's kind of, it's a new process that EPA's rolled out. I guess the jury's still out on it, but what they're doing is setting up 10 regional roundtables and going around essentially and getting public comment, which I appreciate that. The public has the right to go in and comment on certain things. But they're going through a lot of different interesting mechanisms to get to this new definition. The fact of the matter is, I think the Biden administration already has their definition of what they want. One interesting thing, though, is the National Association of Home Builders has actually gotten together with the Farm Bureau because the farming practices they're typically exempt from a lot of the waters of the United States. They're starting to be brought into that fray as well. And as you can imagine, last time you went around a farm, how many ditches did you see to actually go through the irrigation process to put water on the
I still manage 3.
Okay, so you know very well.
The central part of the state, I have 3 counties I'm managing property on. And you're right. I ran into this because we have some ponds.
Mm-hmm.
And those ponds were built, they're spring-fed areas, and you build the dam back in the 40s or 50s, and it becomes, depending on the size of the dam, it becomes part of the Federal Dam Act.
Right.
And you can or cannot do things once it's there. And then you have the issue of these creeks, like you said, ditches. Right. Now, some of them are ditches, and you have perennial, annual, and intermittent. Mm-hmm. And depending on the definition of those, with respect to where water moves, it can be dry, but once in a while, a
little rainstorm,
little creek. Yeah. And then you're right. That could become, in theory, their definition of navigable, even though I can walk across it.
Right.
So these things are people don't think about the details, but that's where the rights are taken away for people like you or the owners that consult with people like you when you're dealing with a home builder and they say, sorry, you've got a big puddle there that is considered water and it must be mitigated.
Well, and the other thing interesting about those terms, which you just mentioned, perennial, annual, and intermittent, is that it's also the hydric soils. You get into the soil characteristics. And so now not only are we looking at the water itself sitting as far as sheet flow water, now we're getting down into the soil characteristics. Is it a hydric sea soil? What are those characteristics? Does it have a certain type of plant material in it that creates wetlands? So it's the pendulum, what we've seen over the last probably 8 years through the federal side is the pendulum just keeps swinging back and forth.
Right.
And it just goes too much one way to the other. And it doesn't provide a lot of balance for us. So, the National Association of Home Builders, the State Association, we're constantly seeing us basically in arguments and in fights with EPA, with environmental agencies, because we're trying to strike some balance here. It's the same thing with the state. State, we have a inclination that they are moving towards trying to create their own wetland program, in the sense their own wetland definition that could be, by law, more stringent than the federal government's. So not only now as you go through your farming practices or maybe your development practices or just to put a house on the ground, you could have 2 definitions. And what happens when they don't really work together? And you're stuck in the middle.
Seen it. In fact, I'm involved in all of those. Okay. I have a development issue that I'm dealing with. I have farming issues I'm dealing with, and I'm trying to build a home. So.
I'm going to give you a nervous twitch by the time we're done with this.
I get them every day. When that phone rings, I'm like, oh no, what now? Even building near water. I'm not on the waterway, and I'm not on the ocean, but I'm on a canal. And so there are so many restrictions. Right. The lot was 1.5 lots. It's a massive lot. And when I went to say I want to build on it, they're like, well, the distance from the water at mean high tide, that special mark, has changed over the years. You have to be 35 feet from that. And if it's pinched at one point and that circle comes around, and then it's 35 feet on all sides. So if you have a corner lot, that's a massive amount of the property that it's like 40% of the property you can't touch.
Right.
And God forbid you have some trees on it. And even if you love trees, you're trying to protect those. So it leaves these very tiny postage stamp areas where you could put a house on it.
It does, and you bring up an interesting point in that kind of equation there. So then what happens is you go down to the local zoning ordinance and you pull it and you start talking to the local planner, and you're trying to now you have to go up because you can't get out as far. So now the height limit comes into play. 35 feet typically is what we see, because maybe you're not in a flood zone, maybe you are.
Yes.
This is actually where a flood zone helps you a little bit, because there's actually exemptions that allow you to go a little higher. But typically that's when we see the pinch points.
Yes.
It's the pinch point on the height. It's the pinch point basically on the postage stamp.
And impervious surfaces.
It is.
Some people consider a gravel to be an impervious surface. You're like, wait a minute, my driveway is going to be gravel, so that could be impervious depending on. And then how much property you have on the within that 35 foot. You can have 200 square feet in this massive overlay, and so we just put a stairway there. But it is astounding, and you're right. Because of the distance to that waterway, we can't even have a bathroom on the first floor. It would have to be 12 feet up. It's 12 feet above sea level, and even though it's a closed system, you would think, the pipes are going down into the ground. So
yeah, I mean it's a, and that's the other issue with regulations. What we see many times is you get sideways with one as you try to basically get approved through another one.
And you're dealing with CAMA, and you're dealing with the city's version of CAMA or the county's version, whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't envy what you guys do, especially when you have to break it to a homeowner. The cost of your house is going from, $180 to $200 a square foot to $240 to $300 a square foot to build.
Right.
And they're like, wait a minute, that's crazy. Well, no, a lot of that is regulation. It's not just the supply chain issue.
30% of regulation, basically, is what we look at.
And people don't realize that. Yeah. They blame you guys. Oh, you guys are just making so much money. You're just killing people out there. And then you find out, then you run into trying to get windows, you try to get doors. So we're going to, TK we'll be back in a second. We're going to take a break in a second. When we do, you're right there. I want to get back and talk about, not only, I do want to mention this homeowners insurance, because down here, insurance is also North Carolina joint underwriters and all of that, and the cost is unbelievable. Not to mention, the property values along the coast go through the roof and that taxation issues. So I want to talk a little bit about that and also about the supply chain and how that's impacting your industry. So we'll continue our discussion with Cameron. I want to say Moore, but I know another Cameron Moore, but it's not.
No, you got it right.
It is Cameron Moore. I want to make sure I got it right. Continue our discussion with Cameron Moore after this here on the Big Talker FM. Mornings with Chad Adams. We'll be right back. If you're anywhere near Oak Island, come check out Seaside Jewelers at 8801 East Oak Island Drive. They're on Oak Island. You're going to find the latest in Oak Island lighthouses, nautical charms, pendants. You're going to find bracelets, turtle charms, anything in the jewelry genre you need, you can get there. And if they don't have it, they'll find a way to get it for you. Come check out Seaside Jewelers at 8801 East Oak Island Drive. And if you tell them you heard it on the Big Talker FM, an extra 10% off your purchase, but only at Seaside Jewelers, 8801 East Oak Island Drive. The lowest prices in town. Come check us out today.
When you purchase a Golden Technology lift and sleep chair from US Med Express at 1733 Dawson Street, you get the benefit of a lift assist chair, a recliner, a memory button chair, a zero gravity chair, a Trendelenburg device, and a sleep chair, all in one of the most comfortable pieces of furniture you have ever experienced. Our chairs lead the industry in power lift recliner features and advances in technology. Our chairs are FDA certified as medical devices, which means it's 100% tax deductible, and helps with a number of medical conditions, including arthritis, poor circulation, and sleep apnea. Give us a call today at 910-500-6162 or stop by and experience our chairs for yourself at 1733 Dawson Street. That's 910-500-6162. 1733 Dawson Street in Wilmington. US Med Express.
I'm a boat builder. It's a tough job that takes time, patience, and precision. It's also incredibly rewarding. How many people can say they built a boat from scratch? In our area, there's a great need for people who can build and repair boats. I turned my love for life on the water into a career that I truly enjoy. I went to CFCC for 2 years, got my training, and now I look forward to work every day. You can too. Visit cfcc.edu/boatbuilding and get started today.
One Love Tennis started in 2013 to give back to young boys and girls. We now go through 460 kids a week that are learning about life skills, learning to succeed in life through academics and tennis. Putting those two together, if you do them well, you can write your own ticket. To get involved in this program, go to our website, one-love-tennis.org.
Hear Tom Goolsby on the Joe Catanacci Show.
People with common sense know that the entire theory of socialism is one big lie.
The Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Every day,
Driving to Oak Island. Good morning. Cameron Moore with us, Home Builders Association, Wilmington Home Builders, and also working with the folks in Brunswick County, and a lot of growth down there. And you hit on something moments ago about vertical. So a lot of what happens in Wilmington is you're rehabbing stuff or you're going vertical.
Right.
And so there's still plenty of opportunity. Wilmington has unlimited growth potential still.
It does.
Even though it has some boundary delineations. Brunswick County's got, it's growing leaps and bounds. You look at Highway 211 between Southport and Supply, and the possible huge track adjacent to St. James over there by the other bridge,
right.
And then the entire 17 corridor between here and Myrtle Beach. It's going to be one continuous thing in the next 25 years, probably.
It is. I mean, we actually have seen over the last probably about 3 months, there's been some larger projects that are being improved again in Brunswick County, I guess I should say Western Brunswick County, get my geographic nature right. And that's a good sign. That's showing that the development community, and a lot of those developers are not from this area. They're coming from other areas. I mean, they're national firms coming in. They've probably already got a builder portfolio put together, but I've seen that at the planning board level, many of those getting approved. And we're not talking about, 100 lots. I mean, we're talking thousands of lots.
Absolutely. There are even Canadian investors.
Right.
There are people from Florida. I know of several development projects that are massive, just like you said, that may be in excess of 1,000 acres.
Right.
Some of those projects, and it's fascinating to watch that unfold and even be a part of some of those.
You see Brunswick County has gotten out in front of the infrastructure. The bypass is coming in. They've got water and sewer. Unlike some of our other neighboring counties like Pender County, they've really struggled to put water and sewer in the ground to get out ahead in front of growth. And now we're challenged in kind of coming up against some of the commissioners. They want to basically say, we don't really want high density projects right now until we get the bypass built. And the challenge is they've just adopted a collector street plan up there that requires a developer to come in to spend millions of dollars on building roadways that that counties do not build or maintain. And that's one challenge we have because the development community is going to be pushing high density projects to pay for these things.
Right.
We're going to have the number count on the ground as far as housing units to be able to pay for an extra $1 million worth of infrastructure.
It is rather. It's astounding. People don't connect those two dots. Now, Brunswick County does have the benefit of a tremendous coastline that produces a lot of revenue for the county that keeps those tax rates down. Most of the property in Brunswick County is still tax deferred,
right?
Because it's agricultural in use, whether it's tree farms or ag farms.
Right.
So that's helpful also to the folks that have these large tracts. Now, when they sell them, you get hit with the Machinery Act, which gives you current year property tax values plus about 3 more. So you get that's a windfall. Every time there's a development, that's a 4-year windfall on that property at current best use for the county. So a lot of good things breaking for Brunswick County, in addition to leadership that has been a little bit, has looked down the road a little bit. And Wilmington now, New Hanover County, it's not just Wilmington, but New Hanover County has big potential. It has those beach communities. It has Wilmington. These are money makers for the county as well.
Well, we just saw yesterday 2 big announcements as far as economic development, bringing more jobs. I mean, we've talked on it on this show since we've been on this show, is that this area, the pandemic was really a wake-up call because it's 4 out of every 5 jobs is related to construction or attached to construction, and then you have the service industry. Well, then we have the pandemic. Well, we saw exactly what happened within our economy. It crushed the service industry. In construction, luckily, we were considered an essential service, and we lobbied hard for that, not only at the local level, state level, national level, but we were able to go to work. But can you imagine what we would be right now, with the shape we'd be in if we had both of those industries within the local Wilmington?
It would be an unbelievable time.
It'd be a local recession that was probably worse than the recession we had as far as the national recession.
So I want to focus a little bit of attention, one, on the insurance issue. So that's one of the issues we want to cover. So tell us a little bit about it, because insurance is costly down here. Wind, hail, these kind of things. You have to have special policies, and those rates can, they're trying to be held in check, but there's a lot going on there. So tell us a little bit about
Sure. So, it's been an ongoing battle, and it will continue to be. We live in a coastal environment, and with coastal environment, we have storms, we have windborne debris line and all this stuff. The interesting thing, and we could argue till I'm literally blue in the face with the insurance industry, is that 9 times out of 10, our issues with hurricanes is more on the flooding side. It's, yes, we have some tree damage.
Roofs get ripped off and some shingles and siding, but it's usually not total destruction.
It's typically a water damage.
The water goes up.
So, but we have seen multiple times over the last probably 10 to 15 years where the insurance industry has proposed a rate increase. And they go, of course, to the Rate Bureau. The Rate Bureau is kind of a side agency that kind of goes through the process of looking at these, making sure that it meets the criteria, going through everything. And they propose that to the insurance commissioner. And through that process right now, what we had, I think it was in November of 2020, there was an increase of 24.5%. Now, this was a homeowner's insurance increase. That's your HO3. So this is your fire and theft. So you mentioned wind, hail, and storm.
Yeah.
And so we've got two policies. So people look at their policy, and I know when they have their mortgage, they may not understand, but you've got an HO3 policy in there, which is your wind and theft. I'm sorry, your fire and theft. And then you've got your basically your fair plan, your beach plan, or what is known as your wind, hail, and storm insurance, and that covers everything else when we have a storm. They've been going back and forth. The Rate Bureau has been going back and forth with the Department of Insurance, and as of right now, they've postponed the hearing. It was supposed to happen January the 3rd to look at that. And typically, what we see in this, when we look at a 24.5% increase, that's a lot. That's huge. We typically see both sides settle, and so it wouldn't surprise me before kind of that January mark, we see a settlement. We've seen this with all of the insurance commissioners. 10,
12, 15%.
I mean, it could be anywhere from, we've seen typically 4 to 5 to 6, but it's still.
That's still, in the type of inflationary environment we live in, every little bit.
And then imagine that every 2 years. Every 2 years kind of going up, because that's what it is. It's a little small bite at the apple.
And people never connect the regulatory side to the affordable housing side.
Mm-hmm.
So all these arguments about affordable housing, when taxes go up, a landlord has to raise the rent.
Right.
When it costs more to build a house, it costs more to rent a house. And those kind of things are the headwinds against affordable housing. And they don't realize a lot of times they're arguing, they're thinking they're going after the millionaires and hitting wealthy, but they're actually hitting all the people that are
they're
hurting.
hitting the folks that could actually provide the product that they're looking for. Our issue is no different right now. And you go into the grocery store. Everything went up maybe 20 cents, 30 cents, $1 here and there. You don't really notice it until you start to kind of say, man, why did my grocery bill go up $50 more? Yeah. Why did my gas just go up another $20 to fill the tank up? That's what's happening right now. So not only do we have the inflation coming into the market on all the goods and services, but I mean, from the development side, I mean, quite frankly, as far as trying to provide affordable housing within the Wilmington region, particularly within the city of Wilmington and New Hanover County, it's very problematic right now.
So the supply chain, you kind of alluded to that, but this is hitting across the board. I mean, you can't get circuit boards for appliances. I mean, people don't realize those are computers. Those are really nice computers these days. Your refrigerator, your stove, your microwave, these are computers, dishwashers, computers.
Right.
You can't get the circuit board, you can't get the chips.
It's, the supply chain, it's gotten better on some sides.
Oh, lumber's gotten better.
Lumber's gotten a little better,
Yeah.
particularly on the dimensional side. We have seen that go down. But the interesting thing about that is we saw it go down and then we saw everything else go up. So it was like we didn't really have a cost savings. We didn't gain anything there. The Canadian lumber, all the tariffs and everything we have been arguing now for the last 16 months as far as with the administration, that particularly on the commerce side, we've got to relax some of these tariffs. We need to get the supply chain working and working in a manner to where we can get essentially materials on the ground to start building houses. We are creating essentially our own self-recession is what we're doing. That's what's happening.
And the government is rather than us helping it by kind of tamping down all of this push. I mean, this new reconciliation bill, I mean, all of this spending is going to make it worse, not better. Nothing about it that's going to make inflation less. It's just going to ramp it up.
It is. I mean, and we're still seeing issues. I mean, to the point where, I mean, I've touched on the show. I mean, when you have issues to where you can't get the pigment for the paint color, or epoxy maybe to go.
That's just bizarre.
Or a specific special kind of caulk or something. That's a problem.
And people don't realize the complexity of a free market, which you've just described in very simple terms. I like that because, a house is a combination of a million different variables, not just the putting the wood up and putting sheetrock up and painting it and putting the plumbing and wiring in, but it's all of the things that go into that. Like you said, the epoxies, the glue, nails. I mean, I can't imagine there's probably supply nails or the way joists are connected together. There's so many different aspects that rely on so many different parts of the economy. If you can't get one of those, it stops everything.
It does. And I mean, then there's a delay, and then that delay ends up to being, a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Windows, prime example. I mean, we've had to go to the Department of Insurance and also with our local counties and our inspections and say, look, we're not going to be able to get windows for this house for 22 weeks. But we need
Unbelievable.
We need to dry this house in. So a lot of houses, when you're driving around, you may see that the Tyvek or the wrap or so is wrapped all the way around the windows. Like, why are they boxing the whole house? Well, they did that.
They had to.
They had to. They had to dry the house in.
Well, Cameron, we appreciate you being a part of things.
Yes, sir.
We're running out of time, top of the hour. Cameron Moore from the Wilmington Home Builder Association. And you got a website folks can check out more?
Sure. It's always WCFHBA.com.
Say it slow.
Slow. I got to say it slow. Yeah. WCFHBA.com.
For slow people like me on the radio.
Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association.com.
Cameron Moore, thank you so much. Coming up next, Representative Charlie Miller. Lots of questions for him. We'll have him for a short period of time. Stay tuned.
Keeping Southport informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that. Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Report for October, America's employers grew their payrolls by a robust 531,000 jobs.
It's the most since July and a sign that the recovery from the pandemic recession may be overcoming a virus-induced slowdown. The Labor Department report also showed the unemployment rate fell to 4.6% last month from 4.8% in September. And while that's a comparatively low level, it's still well above the pre-pandemic jobless rate of 3.5%.
Correspondent Jeremy House. The House back in session this morning, preparing for a possible vote on President Biden's almost $2 trillion climate and social spending plan.
The Democrats want to vote on the president's signature proposal and the companion bipartisan $1 trillion infrastructure bill that long ago passed the Senate. Though half the size of Biden's initial $3.5 trillion package, the domestic bill is still more far-reaching than any other in decades.
That's correspondent Mike Gracia. Although President Biden initially called them garbage, the White House now confirms reports the administration is negotiating big money payouts to illegal alien families whose members were separated at the border as the Trump administration enforced immigration laws. Democrat losses in this week's elections, House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy calling those losses
a wake-up call for Washington Democrats to abandon the partisanship, the extremist agenda of Washington-based programs that nobody even wants.
And McCarthy predicts that Republicans could flip more than 60 House seats in next year's midterm elections. Jurors to be sworn in today for the murder trial of 3 white men in Brunswick, Georgia, charged with chasing and shooting Ahmaud Arbery, 25-year-old black man. Watching Wall Street, stock futures higher, Dow futures up 141 points, NASDAQ futures 50 points higher. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Thinking about life insurance? What if you could make one free phone call and learn your best price from nearly a dozen highly rated price-competitive companies? Well, that's exactly what happens when you call SelectQuote Life. For example, George is 40. He was getting sky-high quotes from other companies because he takes meds to control his blood pressure. But when I shopped around, I found him a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $25 a month. I'm SelectQuote agent Dan Savino. And believe me, if SelectQuote isn't shopping for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For a free quote, call 800-523-3771. That's 800-523-3771. 800-523-3771. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Or price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Iran's atomic agency claims that its stockpile of 20% enriched uranium has now reached over 463 pounds.
It's been known for some months that Iran has been producing uranium enriched to 60%. A report to that effect by the UN nuclear watchdog back in April was subsequently confirmed by Tehran, which in June said it had produced 6.5 kilograms of the material so far. The latest information suggests that it's now produced 4 times that amount. The concern over the enrichment program is that it brings Iran ever closer to the 90% uranium enrichment, which is considered to be weapons grade.
BBC's Sebastian Usher. Japanese automaker Honda lowering its profit and vehicle sales forecast for the fiscal year, pointing to shortages of computer chips as well as a rising cost of materials. Breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. Japanese video game maker Nintendo says profits tumbled 19% in the first half of its fiscal year.
Nintendo had received a big lift in the previous year as people stuck at home by the coronavirus pandemic turned to its products. Kyoto-based Nintendo, which is behind the Super Mario and Pokemon games, reports a $1.5 billion profit for the April-September period. A shortage of computer chips caused by the pandemic is hurting production of the Nintendo Switch machines, and the year-end holidays are critical for Nintendo sales. John Scott reporting.
Atlanta police predict 1 million people could turn out for today's victory celebration for the World Series champion Braves. Day-long celebration, the highlight of which will be a big parade from downtown Atlanta into suburban Cobb County, the Braves' first World Series title since way back in 1995. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Please stand by.
We now take you live to the Institute of Rational Thought for a special broadcast. Hard-hitting interviews and relevant information to make your day. It's Chad Adams.
Welcome back, folks. Glad to have you here. Chad Adams Show here on the Big Talker FM 106.7. It's an exciting time, and it's not only is it an exciting time, it's redistricting time. It's where the heck's the budget time. It's politicking time. 2 days after one election, we're earnestly in the brand new election for 2022. We're going to be joined in a second by Representative Charlie Miller. Is he there? Oh, Charlie.
Yeah. Hey, good morning,
buddy.
Chad.
Man, it's good to see you last night. You did a great job, by the way.
Well, I appreciate that. It was a great time to be back in Brunswick County and in the district. And I just got home about an hour before I saw you in Bolivia last night, so it's been a long week in Raleigh.
I had underestimated your public speaking prowess. I was surprised.
Oh, okay.
You got up there and it was good and funny and entertaining and serious anyway. Lot to cover. I know I've got you for a short time because, look, you guys are in this marathon. You're in a part-time job. You're the chief deputy for Brunswick County. The legislature is dragging you, kicking and screaming, up to Raleigh, and you've got to be exhausted because, you guys should be home by August, September maybe, but we're in November now, and it's got to be, Mr. I've been in office for this is your second year or first year finishing up. It's got to be exhausting.
It is. It really is. And but I'm enjoying every minute of it. But, my colleagues were joking this week about do we need to bring our Christmas trees when we come back in another week. So I'm not planning on taking the Christmas tree to Raleigh, and but I do enjoy every minute of it. And we've had a very eventful week, got the maps passed, the redistricting. And, my colleagues worked really, really hard on that. And it was such a transparent process. Everything was done in the open and, live where you could watch it anywhere in the world. So I'm real proud of the process, and we got them passed yesterday. We finished them up.
And for those who don't know, it doesn't require the governor's signature. These are just maps that need to pass judicial review. And by the way, looking through these, having seen the maps that were developed in the early 90s with then legislative person, Governor Cooper, now Governor Cooper, that crazy snake that went down from Greensboro down to Charlotte. These maps, I looked through them, and, they may have a slight partisan edge to them, but I think they're pretty tight districts. They try to keep county lines in place. They try to keep people of geographies and demographics together. Your district grew a little. I mean, the population's grown. Yours now would include Boiling Springs Lake and at BSL rather, and a couple more areas into Eiler's territory. But his area has grown too because of population in Leland. And they overall. The maps look pretty good. I mean, I know people are calling you guys every name in the book, but these maps are far better than some of the ones that have come out of Raleigh.
Yeah, I think so. And, with it being so transparent, everybody, anybody could go watch and observe. The Democrats could go draw, in the room that they had set up. I think it was really good. I will pick up Bolivia, and I'll pick up Bowling Spring Lakes, which I'm really excited to do. And I'll lose a couple of precincts in Wilmington, down around the Greenfield Lake area, but overall, I think our district will be strong. I think it's as fair as it can be.
And BSL will have a lake soon, again, hopefully.
Let's hope so. If we can get this budget passed, I've got, I think it's $12.5 or $14 million in the budget for the dam repair, and we'll work real close with Senator Rabin on that, and we're really excited to be able to help them and give them some help to get those dams repaired. They've been empty too long.
You kind of mentioned it in passing, but I'll go back right in at it, and that's the budget. Look, all cities and counties have to have theirs done by July or June 30th. They're waiting. They depend on the state to kind of finish things up in July, by July 1st usually. It's now November. Media's not giving it a lot of attention. We're kind of under a continuing resolution since the governor's vetoed every budget since he's been in office. So, it doesn't seem to be as pressing, but it's still important. So where would you say you guys are in this budget process? Because the House has said no Medicaid expansion. The Senate Berger has said, well, we could probably have some, but I think the House is adamant that that's not going to happen. So where are we?
Yeah, the House is very firm on no Medicaid expansion. And from what we're being told this week when we left yesterday, that we're getting real close. Our Speaker has done a wonderful job. Speaker Moore has done a wonderful job negotiating with Senator Berger and the governor, and I personally feel like we're getting really close, and got my fingers crossed when we go back the week of the 15th that hopefully we'll be able to vote on something. So on the budget. So I feel real good about it. I've got a lot of things in the budget that is going to affect everything from Carolina Beach to Holden Beach, and we've got dredging projects for Carolina Beach. We got a couple of parks. We got some road projects, some sidewalk projects, sewer projects here in Southport. We've been working, with Mayor Hayden on that. And, there's just a lot of good things across the state, not just my district, but across the state. But if we can get this budget, we'll bring back about $60 million just to District 19. And I'm really excited to be able to do that, especially being a first-year legislator.
And no new taxes, right?
No new taxes.
No. Well, one last thing. It's just a comment, and you kind of alluded to it last night, and I think it doesn't get said enough, that though there are very significant partisan differences during the electoral process, and even sometimes in primaries, once the business of running the state, cities, and counties gets going, the cooperation and the ability to communicate with people regardless is critical to moving communities. And you mentioned that you alluded to it last night, and I know it's something that's important to you, that getting along with these mayors, getting along with the county commissions in both New Hanover and Brunswick in your case, that line of communication is open. And you've been very easy. Hey, you've been very easy for me to reach, and I assume you've been just as easy for those folks to reach.
Yeah. I always answer the phone, and if I don't, I'll call you right back. But one of the first things I did when I got to Raleigh was open those lines of communications with all my towns in the district. And it don't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. Once you're elected, you represent everybody. And, I'm sitting there as a voice for all these towns, and we have to work together. And I think with what I've got in the budget, it'll show you how I've worked together with our towns and they with me, and to try to get the things that our citizens need in District 19. And it's all about the communications and relationships. I think I said last night that the issues in the mountains, I've become really good friends with all my guys in the West, and their issues are just as important to them as mine are here on the coast. But the reason I say that is we have to work together with them, and they work with us, and we work towards a common goal of helping all of our citizens across the state of North Carolina, and that's what we've done. And, the budget is a great budget, and I'm really excited about it, and just need to get it passed so we can get these funds to our districts.
One question before I let you go is, the governor has been steadfast in the record number of vetoes. It seems to be an anger issue with Republicans. There seems to be something very deeply disturbing about his relationship with Republicans. And I could be characterizing this wrong. I don't want to, but it's just over time I noticed there's kind of a seething anger there with the governor toward Republicans, and that makes everything very difficult. How would you characterize the relationship with the governor and his staff between the legislature, but which has largely been quiet through COVID? I mean, the governor has had this emergency authorization stuff going on for 2 years now with very little pushback from the General Assembly. And how did you characterize the relationship with the governor's office between the legislative branches?
I've been around him several times. He's very cordial when we're around him, but when we start sending bills over, of course, it gets to rubber stamp. And two of the bills that really bother me the most is the one you just spoke about, the emergency
authorization powers,
powers. And that's really not aimed at him per se. He just happens to be in office at this time, and no one person should have that much authority over our whole state. And whether it was a Republican in there or Democrat, I really felt good about that bill. And, another bill was our rioting bill. We saw our towns destroyed across the state. There's still places in Raleigh that has boards over their windows where, it was destroyed during the riots. And, I was a co-sponsor with Speaker Moore, or primary sponsor with Speaker Moore on 805, which was the Prevent Rioting bill. And, that was a good bill. And, when we brought that forward, the Democrats just went crazy on the other side of the aisle against myself and Speaker Moore when we spoke on the floor. And, it was a good bill, and it made sense to me to protect our businesses and protect our state. It wasn't about limiting peaceful protest. It actually promoted peaceful protest, but it put more penalties on the ones that caused the destruction. And he vetoed it. And, everything we send over there, he vetoes. So,
well, Representative,
hopefully we'll pick up 3 seats in 2022 and have 72 in the House and enough in the Senate, and we'll have a supermajority, and then that won't count anymore.
Well, he'll be a figurehead like he was the first 2 years that
there we go.
That he was in office.
That's our goal.
So again, Representative Miller, we appreciate the time and appreciate you sharing your thoughts about what's going on up there. I know you're glad to be home. I know I agree. I've seen the legislature, been there many times, and you never had to. The only one session I can think of that ran longer than the one you're in, maybe more, but that's the only one I recall. And the idea of Christmas trees in legislative offices is very disturbing for those who have any familiarity with the building.
Yes, I'm not taking the Christmas tree around.
Thank you for your time. I know you got to run. Thank you for spending the time with us. Representative Charlie Miller.
Thank you, sir.
Much more to go here on the show. We'll be back after this break. Liz White, a mayor-elect of Oak Island, joining us at the bottom of the hour. Stay tuned.
We wouldn't sell you a dining room table, so don't buy a medical device from a furniture store. US Med Express is Wilmington's leading supplier of golden technology lift and sleep chairs, carrying a variety of models in our showroom at 1733 Dawson Street. Our chairs lead the industry in power lift recliner features and advances in technology. Our chairs are FDA certified as medical devices, which means it's 100% tax deductible and helps with a number of medical conditions, including arthritis, poor circulation, and sleep apnea. Give us a call today at 910-500-6162 or stop by and experience our chairs for yourself at 1733 Dawson Street. That's 910-500-6162. 1733 Dawson Street in Wilmington. US Med Express. Here, Tom Goolsby on the Joe Catanacci Show.
People with common sense know that the entire theory of socialism is one big lie.
The Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Constructive Solutions is the name of my construction company. It's called Constructive Solutions because I focus on solving what it is my customers need and want, and there's always a way to get the job done. We're in our 25th year serving our community. We handle all types of home improvements and repairs, literally from your crawl space to your roof, as well as commercial alterations. We're a small, family-owned and operated business. My wife works in the office, and my son Dylan is my right and left-hand man. Combined, we have over 70 years of experience. Dylan and I face every project or challenge that comes our way. I learned my trade from my father, who was a builder until his eyesight failed him. I was showing some employees a picture of my father working on the second-story eaves of his home, and I said, "Can you believe he's 82 and up on a homemade scaffold?" They said, "He's 82?" I replied, "Yes, and he's blind. Don't ever tell me it can't be done." So if you want quality professional service for your home or business, give us a call at 910-231-6020 or go to markmarkley.com.
As Wilmington's leader in restorative and regenerative medicine, the Frank Institute specializes in health optimization. Simply put, we use in-depth evaluations and lab testing to determine the best treatments for each patient. So whether you're suffering from an unseen hormonal imbalance or a simple vitamin deficiency, the Frank Institute is ready to get you back to better living. Call us at 910-679-8534 or fill out our symptom survey online at frankinstitute.com. Because at the Frank Institute, you live, we help.
I am State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better place. Visit us online at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hey guys, Ramsey personality Rachel Cruz here. Every day we get calls from people in all walks of life who want the same thing, a plan. Whether you're stuck in a job that you have no passion for or want to get on a budget, we have advice from the experts right here on The Ramsey Show.
O'Leary's Automotive Repair has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
You know, for a second, I thought that was a commercial. I love TK. He's looking at me like, these idiots, I have to deal with them. They're idiots. Like a bad Ren and Stimpy episode. So,
not idiots, just children.
The children. We shall boil them. So, I don't know how many of you are familiar. The Steele dossier story is, it's sexy, it's lurid, it's disgusting. It was the precursor to years of just confusion and allegations about the Russians helping to win the election in 2016. And, you know, a lot of people on the right were like, this is just nuts. This is not true. It's not real. And now the Durham investigation is kind of proving it wasn't real, wasn't true, even though mainstream media was earning Pulitzer Prizes for reporting about this Steele dossier thing. And even Adam Schiff and Jared Nadler, these high-ranking Democrats, put their entire careers on, oh, this is all true. And it didn't matter. Facts didn't matter. And they weren't seemingly important. Now, whether you despise the ex-president or love the ex-president, what should be important is the truth should matter. And you know, was Trump prone to wild exaggerations? Yes, he was. He is. Or, you know, Joe Biden, do you really feel better about that? He tells some, but I'm not sure he knows he's telling them. So let's go into this story a little bit about what's going on, because a lot of people look at the John Durham, and Durham has proven, he's a special counsel, that he's not on anybody's timetable. Maybe you would see it on other shows. I never really got into it because I figured he's doing his job methodically, and it'll lead where it leads. It'll lead nowhere, or it will lead to something, and some more truth will be shed, and we'll start. And right now, the left, the political left, CNN, MSNBC, a lot of these folks, they are doing everything they can to ignore, obfuscate, confuse, and make sure that you don't get a lot of information about what John Durham did yesterday. And it's pretty earth-shattering kaboom kind of stuff. Special Counsel John Durham's indictment of Igor Danchenko The principal source of the bogus Steele dossier used by the FBI, this is Andrew McCarthy over at the New York Post, used by the FBI as a basis for the Trump-Russia investigation, further illustrates that Durham has his sights set on the Clinton campaign. Danchenko has been charged with 5 counts of lying to the FBI in interviews during 2017, as the Bureau struggled in futility to verify outlandish allegations that Donald Trump and his campaign were working with the Kremlin. Those allegations were compiled in the Steele dossier, which the FBI relied on in obtaining surveillance warrants for a secret federal court, the FISA court, as you're familiar with. The dossier was generated by the Clinton campaign. Its principal author was former British spy Christopher Steele. Steele's main source was Danchenko, a Russian native based in the U.S. who worked at the Brookings Institute, a Washington think tank whose former president, Strobe Talbot, is a college friend of Bill Clinton, who worked in the Clinton State Department. At Brookings, Danchenko worked with Fiona Hill, also a problem erupting. Later, a member of President Trump's National Security Council and a key witness in the first Trump impeachment over the unrelated Ukraine controversy. It was through Hill that Danchenko became acquainted with Steele, who ran a London-based intelligence firm upon leaving MI6, the British spy agency. Durham's indictment alleges that Danchenko lied about 2 major points. First, he fabricated the claim that the president of the Russian-American Chamber of Commerce informed him that during the 2016 presidential campaign, Trump was involved in a well-developed conspiracy of cooperation with Putin. In reality, the indictment says this never, ever, ever happened. Never happened. The chamber president is not identified by name in the indictment. After the Steele dossier became public, however, there was intense speculation that the chamber's founder, Sergei Milian, was a Steele dossier source. Danchenko is also alleged to have concealed that one of his sources of the information he provided to Steele was a longtime Democrat Party operative with close ties to Clinton's, having worked on both Bill Clinton's presidential campaigns and Hillary Clinton's 2008 one. This source was revealed on Thursday to be Chuck Dolan, public relations executive who had Russian contacts and referred to as PR Executive 1 in the indictment. It appears that Durham theorizes that the Trump-Russia collusion narrative was a political attack manufactured by the Clinton campaign, relying on Danchenko. Steele compiled the reports for Glenn Simpson. Anyway, this gets really in the weeds. But the point being, all of it was fabricated. All of it. And it was, and then U.S. media ran with it as factual. So rather than ask tough questions about, so where did this come from? Who did it? Why are they doing this? They ran with it. So if it came from Democrat sources, it was accepted as fact. Prima facie, absolutely. Beyond reproach, truth, done. They ran with it. That's the insidious nature of the collusion, the real collusion between the many U.S. media sources and Democrats. That's why Nancy Pelosi can, with conviction and confidence, come out in front of a press conference and with a straight face and a finger wag say, you guys need to do a better job of selling this. You guys need to do a better job of selling this tax and spend multi-trillion-dollar plan. That you and the media, our lackeys, haven't done your job. You work for us. It's the oddity here and the irony. Love irony. Yes, I love irony. The irony is that it's just like the Russians and Pravda, that the media is supposed to operate as propaganda for the Democrats. That's the assumption. Then you see it play out time and again. Whether you're watching Nancy Pelosi, whether you're watching, do you ever see Republicans come out and say, you know, you're supposed to do what we tell you to do? No, they know that's never going to happen. They're just hoping for a fair shake beyond Fox News. So this is far from done. I mean, the entire thing with Durham, it looks like the Clinton campaign used agents to peddle this conspiracy thing to the government and the media. The media ran with it and the government ran with it. And think about this. The U.S. taxpayers have spent tens of millions of dollars because of Adam Schiff and Jared Nadler and these ridiculous hearings and the impeachment that followed. Completely made up. You'll never see any apologies for that. I mean, you know what? They could apologize and still hate Trump. They could actually do the right thing and say, we were fooled. You know what? They took us for a ride. We fell for it hook, line, and sinker. We still can't stand Trump, but we were wrong on this one. We weren't wrong on the other stuff. We were wrong on this one. But they won't. They can't. And Schiff is still out there doubling down on stuff. He just cannot help himself. Now, We're going to take a break here in a minute. We come back. We're going to finally interview. And for those of you that were planning on this, we had an earlier interview scheduled. New host, new schedule, but we are going to interview Mayor-elect Liz White. She of Oak Island, just recently elected this past Tuesday. She'll be coming into office soon. There will be one councilman was reelected, and another, Mark Martin, was a new member of the council, defeating Loman Scott, who was on the council. And then there's also another council to fill an unexpired term. So it could be an interesting way in which this moves forward. What does it mean? What does it mean about the leadership of Oak Island? What does it mean about the issues confronting one of these prime coastal communities, one of the largest strand of beach in all of Brunswick County? So we'll have that discussion with Mayor-elect Liz White after this here on the Big Talker FM Chad Adams Show. Stay tuned.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. A Bladen County Sheriff's deputy has officially resigned after being indicted by grand jury on an assault charge. Michael Shaw II is accused of assaulting a man with a large flashlight around October 8th while on duty. Shaw was arrested and placed under a $100,000 bond, but he posted bail and has been released. After getting the green light from state health officials, New Hanover County started giving COVID-19 shots to children ages 5 to 11 yesterday. They're administering the shots inside Independence Mall in Wilmington. Vaccine appointments for children at Brunswick County Health Services main clinic in Bolivia open up today. The county's health services requires written permission from a parent or legal guardian to administer vaccines to those under 16. Pender County also hopes to begin rolling out the vaccine later today. The North Carolina General Assembly has finalized maps for the state's legislative and congressional districts that are supposed to last for the next decade. The House and Senate voted yesterday for the lines drawn based on 2020 census figures. Republicans would be in good shape to retain their state legislative majorities as well as to win 10 U.S. House seats, 2 more than they currently hold. Democrats and their allies say the maps contain illegal partisan and racial gerrymanders. And a proposed high-rise housing development on the western shore of the Cape Fear River has hit a bump in the road. The Battleship Point project calls for nearly 900 apartments and condos, as well as restaurant and retail space and a hotel. If the current designs are approved, it would be the tallest structure in New Hanover County. KFJ Development Group asking the County Planning Commission to create a new zoning district known as Riverfront Urban Mixed Use. The board says it won't make a decision until they see the full project plans. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Friday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. We're going to see a quiet day on tap across the Cape Fear, expecting dry conditions and a good deal of clouds, but a few peaks of sunshine throughout the day today. And our temperatures still remaining on the cooler side, as we are going to be about 10 degrees cooler than normal, topping off in the lower 60s closer to the coast, and further inland we'll be topping off in the upper 50s this afternoon. Clouds increase tonight, and a few showers could be possible by daybreak on Saturday. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
A Monday warrior, mean strike. Today's Tom Sawyer, mean pride.
Good morning. Good day, good afternoon, depending on when you're listening to this broadcast. We appreciate you being a part of the show. With us right now, Mayor-elect Liz White. Very contentious election. It was kind of, I would say it's a change election in many ways. That we saw this. We've seen some towns affirm their previous leadership. We've seen some towns reject it, and Oak Island has decided to go in a new direction, and this is the new mayor. Welcome to the show. How are you this morning?
I'm well, Chad. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. You know, a lot of folks on the campaign trail, you can only meet almost as many hands as you shake, and then there's campaign signs. And, you know, because of these small communities, it's often newspaper ads, personal phone calls, a few events. But the vast majority of people, they don't get that. There's not commercials that necessarily go out for some of these. So, you know, this is a chance for folks to get to know you a little bit better. You know, by the way, congratulations. You know, you had a dedicated team of people from a broad array of political backgrounds. So tell me, you know, how's it feel This is new for you.
It's very new for me. I've not held a political position before. It's still sinking in that this is my next 4 years, but I'm very humble for the support that I've received from the voters, and I'm very proud to be able to serve as Oak Island's next mayor.
Now, Mark Martin elected alongside you, also John Bach. These folks, the other council members. Where do you see, as the biggest challenge? Oak Island has many possibilities. It's got a lot of land. It's the largest beach in Brunswick County. It has, great tourism, but there's a lot of challenges. What do you see as, you identified some during the campaign. What do you see as the big challenges ahead for Oak Island?
Well, I think in the short term, it would be to reunite our community around shared goals, which is a challenge in after a contested election, as this past one was, to establish a focused agenda with more of a long view. We begin the budget process in January, but I think the big ones for us is to develop a comprehensive approach to our beach and coastline management. You mentioned that we do have the 9.5 miles of beach here. The characteristics are very different, and in the different parts of it, ranging from east to west, and to find the right approach to that is more sustainable and less cost effective is certainly a challenge. We are growing at an unanticipated rate. There will be a lot of off-island growth in the next 5 years. Potentially, we could double in population, which has, it presents a number of challenges by itself. So to be able to manage that growth in a smart and strategic way, working collaboratively with the developers and the town administration and council is certainly something that will take a lot of focus, and then to expand our economic development, one that's more sustainable, and certainly the growth presents that opportunity. Beyond just tourism, which seems to be our focus now, but I think we need, in order to keep taxes low, I think we need to find other ways to strengthen our economy so that it benefits everyone in Oak Island.
You mentioned something in that couple minutes there that I want to kind of go back in on. You mentioned focusing in on the administration. I guess you meant the town, and I don't want to infer anything because I want to let you speak for yourself on the town administration. Looking at trying to change the way in which the town operates. Does that mean staffing and trying to make changes there and look at things differently? Can you define that one a little bit? You mentioned administrative focus.
Well, I just meant to engage all of the stakeholders.
Okay.
And the process of defining, what Oak Island wants to be when it grows up. We have talented staff. I'm looking forward to working with David Kelly. And as you mentioned, John Bach was reelected. He's a very smart man and has carried us forward. It's no surprise that he was reelected. Mark Martin has a lot of background in local government, and Bill Kraft is who is filling a seat vacated by a previous council member, and I've worked with him for most of the summer. So I'm really very excited for the folks that I'll be working with, Sheila Bell and Charlie Blaylock, who have had a good tenure on the council. With this election, there was more talent than seats, unfortunately. But I'm really excited to engage with all of our council and our town leadership to help move things forward. And I don't want to leave out the citizens. so their active participation as to how we move forward is absolutely essential.
Now, for those of you who don't know, she mentioned David Kelly. He's the current city manager of Oak Island. Oak Island used to be two separate communities. It was Yopon Beach and Long Beach. And if you drive down there and you come across the bridge, when you travel from the Caswell Beach area, which is the other beach on that island, so you mentioned 9-12 miles of coastline, but in addition, that island itself actually has another couple miles because of Caswell Beach. But you see those two distinct business corridors. You see the old Yopon Beach, that family-oriented, the streets have names. And then you get into where the streets have numbers, that's the Long Beach delineation, and you see that other business district, which is seeing quite a bit of growth. If you get down there toward the first stoplight there, and you see the new Publix, and you see that was a center of economic activity there. There's a food line on the island. It is growing. There's a lot of redevelopment taking place. So how do you see making those two business corridors kind of fundamentally work? Because, like I said, a lot of people don't realize there's actually two business districts there, and that's a little bit of a challenge.
It is, but it's not insurmountable. I would like to see an Oak Island downtown, if you will, that is safe, walkable, maintains its small beach town charm, and that will be a way of blending the new with the old. I love our small business community. They're very supportive of everything the town does. And I really want to keep that culture, that feel, the friendliness of Oak Island. And that will take some planning and some effort. It's not going to happen overnight. But to have plans in place as to how to incrementally move forward will be important so that we have goals and can hold ourselves accountable for those goals and have a clear vision for how we move forward.
Now, the big issue, I would say the most contentious issue down there, and it wasn't so much for Caswell Beach, but it was because of Isaias last year that hit the west end of the island. And Oak Island lays out kind of funny. It doesn't face east. It kind of faces south, so it's an east and west end. So the west end took a lot more damage than the east end. And hurricanes traditionally do a lot of damage down in that corridor. They move things that otherwise weren't moved. It moves a lot of sand. And so that becomes a contentious issue about dune construction, lots that get taken by hurricanes, and then the city takes them over, and then they end up back in the hands of someone who builds a house on them, beachfront versus not. The issue of sand is a big deal. It moves very quickly. It's difficult to keep in place. I can't imagine trying to wrap my hands around thinking I could fix that. And you've been, you've had some statements about it. What's your thought on the whole process, the sand issue down there?
It is a contentious one. There are people that follow the thinking that they want to let it go and be whatever Mother Nature intends. There are others who have homes on the ocean front and want to make sure that they're safe. I think that we need to take a long view as far as the beach and plan out what will happen, in the worst of circumstances, and then how we manage that beach on a day-to-day or year-to-year basis. I think we're a little reactive at this point, and I would like to see us take a step back, fix the urgent needs that we have currently, and we'll have to address those fairly soon. But to otherwise take a step back, we have one of the strongest university systems in the country. A great many of them study our coastline. We have expertise on the island. And to be able to blend those voices and their expertise into the process to give us different perspectives than we currently have on the table as to what the possibilities are, what the opportunities are. In the end, Chad, Mother Nature will always win. But
true.
The beach is ours to take care of. I think we need strong relationships with the other beach communities, with our commissioners at the county level, And of course, we can't do without our elected officials at the state level, which requires collaborative relationships. And again, try to approach this beach maintenance from a little broader perspective and make sure that we examine all the possibilities that exist.
So one of the other issues certainly is it's not necessarily home building, but it's development and home building. There's a rather large potential proposal there on the other bridge, on the Middleton Bridge. And there, people are building, renovating houses. There are a lot of regulations about that. There's a lot of concern about this kind of stuff. Oak Island's a limited land mass, and there are people that do take older homes and they make them nicer. You have thoughts about that? I mean, that's the tax base of Oak Island is largely homeowner driven. You've got some businesses there, but and it seems to be a fairly growing tax base, mainly because of valuations go up. What are your thoughts there with respect to that issue? Because I know it's one that affects a lot of folks.
It does affect a lot of folks. And one of the things that I really like about Oak Island, and I think is part of its charm, is the diversity of people and homes on the island. I've had a chance to walk a good many of those streets and have a firsthand view of what that diversity actually is. The early homes that were here and that are much smaller in nature, many of them concrete, as well as the new ones along the beach. I would like to see a little more proportional development so that there's not as much contrast in the height of some of the newer homes and the smaller homes. But that's a personal, my own personal thought there.
Right.
But you're right
mayor,
about...
Again, you're elected in many respects, unless there's a tie, the mayor doesn't, we had this discussion with Mayor Saffo earlier. And, you are, when something happens on that island, that's where the media is going to run. They're going to run to Mayor Liz White, get comments from Mayor Liz White. And you're trying to bridge the gap and provide kind of a vision at the same time that we're in a city manager form of government. So you've had lots of experience in leadership roles with the Red Cross and other organizations. It's going to be an interesting challenge for you, and but you've got a great team that worked very diligently and hard across a lot of different political stripes to make this election happen.
Yes. So your question is.
Well, so doing that, I mean, because a lot of times you're going to have to mold the issues that are going to be voted on by that city council. So the issues, to the degree to which you can set that agenda for folks. Because they elected you, but it's tough. It's a tough hill to climb for mayors a lot of times. But it sounds like you have a good working relationship. Do you feel that they're going to embrace your vision of where you'd like to see the community go?
I think that's what a strong collaborative relationship is all about. I'm a strong believer. I would rather have people with diverse perspectives and skills at the table. Science has demonstrated that they solve complex problems more effectively and more readily than a group of people who think alike. And I want to be able to engage the community in those discussions. They need to be represented at the table where those discussions and decisions take place. I have been fortunate throughout my career to have to flex to different styles of leadership. It doesn't bother me in the least that I don't have a vote. I think skilled leadership is exactly as you said, is able to shape and influence the decisions and the discussions that are to be had. And when the information is placed in the hands of our council and with the input of our citizens, I trust they'll make the best decisions possible for how we move forward. So not to have a vote in our current government structure doesn't bother me one bit. This is really, in many respects, I feel as though I've been preparing for this role throughout my entire career.
Representative Charlie Miller was texting me while you were giving that answer and just wanted to say he looks forward to working closely with you. And he says, we've put $20 million for sand in the budget. He's texting me that while you're talking, so he's listening to what you have to say. Come 6 months, a year from now, what are some things? Two things. One, having been in elected office, so many times elections happen. Citizens, they get involved and they vote, and then you go to work, right? You're the mayor. They go back to doing what they do. Getting them back involved is often a challenge. You see this on boards and commissions that counties and cities appoint. How do you, and I'm not making it too complicated, how do you get these people to stay active in being shareholders in what happens on that island? And two, come a year from now, what would you like to look back if we have this discussion a year from now and you say, I'm glad I accomplished blank?
Well, before I answer those two questions, please tell Charlie Miller that we're still waiting for the governor to sign off on that $20 million, and sure could use it to help our coastline. I just want to get that plug in. But what I would like to see and to have in place a year from now is some long range plans, at least in the development, for economic development, to be able to re-examine our land use plan and update that, as well as have a vision for how we'll manage our beach. As it develops and as storms and the like happen, we need a plan for how we'll move forward and protect our coastline in a more comprehensive way. And that's going to take the collaboration of a great many people. In terms of engaging the community, I was excited for the campaign. It really energized a lot of people where there was lethargy before. We had just shy of 40% turnout for a municipal election. That is, I think, from the prior municipal election without commissioners and the like engaged, that's about a 30% increase. So there's a palpable excitement and energy on the island that didn't exist before the election. I've been very clear as I've campaigned that as their mayor, I can't do this alone, that I need a skilled council and the active engagement of the community. And toward that end, one of my goals is to provide more opportunities for citizen input and a way to put the talent that's on our island to good use to help us reach the goals that we established.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time. A lot of people may not have met you yet. Those in the campaign obviously have, and those you shook hands with, but there's a lot more folks out there, and we wish you well and appreciate you taking the time to share your thoughts on what's going to happen next down there in Oak Island, okay?
Very much. Thanks, Chad. I look forward to speaking with you again in the future.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break here as we wrap things up for the day here on this beautiful, beautiful Friday before a little rain settles in. Hope folks can get out to see their Cape Fear Fair and Expo. Should be a lot of fun. I'm hoping to check it out probably tomorrow in the rain. Much more to go. A little bit more to go. We'll wrap things up for this wonderful Friday. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.
This show is also sponsored by Dr. Tony Maglione. Dr. Tony is a cardiologist practicing in Wilmington. He accepts Medicare patients, and his office is located across the street from New Hanover Regional Medical Center at 2032 17th Street. The office number is 202-1071. Dr. Tony is an author whose last book is Rules for Conservative Patriots, and it can be purchased on Amazon. His website is www.drtonymag.com.
Here's 1 minute of tree knowledge in 30 seconds with K.O. Davis.
It's important that you have somebody, a trained professional, to trim your trees. There are these guys out there that just hack trees, and that's the worst thing in the world that you can do. Don't let somebody hat rack your trees. That's a tree term for hat rack. You know how they just cut a tree and it looks like it's just got like a hat rack? These guys just go up and just cut the trees off, and they don't cut it back to the proper spot. Call us, because we care about your trees.
Visit KO's coasttocoasttree.com.
Don't let some yahoo hat rack your trees.
Hey, this is Matt Ham, co-founder of Viewprint Faith and Personal Development. Join us for Wake Up Our Faith,
a real conversation about living out your faith between Sundays, streaming live every Wednesday at 11 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Catch the replay every Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7 FM. Stop by and visit us on the web at uprint.life.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina, practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
The Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association serves as the advocate for the building industry, advancing professionalism and promoting community involvement. We are a positive force for responsible growth while protecting property rights and the privilege of home ownership. 3 out of every 5 jobs is touched in some manner by construction in our region. Growth generates jobs, maintains our property values, and builds and updates our infrastructure. Join us Friday mornings for the Construction Connection with the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association and the Big Talker FM.
I'm Rob Renz, Marine Corps veteran, entrepreneur, and local business owner. Join me and my buddies on Monday from 6 to 7 for Signal Fire Radio, where we discuss how to successfully transition from the military and become a signal fire in your community. That's Signal Fire Radio, Mondays from 6 to 7 p.m. on 106.7 The Big Talk.
Government has become too big, too overtaxing, and is constantly over-regulating every aspect of your life.
If you agree with that, tune into Consumer Choice Radio every Saturday at 10 a.m. here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM with me, Yael Osowski.
And me, David Clement. For an hour, you'll get expert analysis on what the government is sinking its teeth into next, and how you, as a consumer, can push back.
ConsumerChoiceRadio.com.
Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
TK has a broad interest in music. Appreciated. And giving
you said you didn't want rock.
No. I said no, headbanging.
So I'm giving you all the mellow,
you did fine.
Relaxing.
You didn't do the, what's the Pina Colada song. So, hey, we got through it. Ha!
I got more.
No, we're at the end here. So I want to give this one. This is my, no. I got to get to this story. This is a good story. So in the sci-fi headline of the day, that's not sci-fi. If I gave you this headline, it would be like, I don't know, something that you would see in Amazon Prime or Netflix, the new show. So you get through Squid Game, it's time for jellyfish. So what's the jellyfish story? Jellyfish story of the day is jellyfish keep attacking nuclear power plants. Not a sci-fi. True story. Jellyfish, those clever, crafty jellyfish. Those blobs that fill the shoreline, that bring in the sea turtles every year, that wash up on shore. Well, not exactly those, but lots of other kinds of jellyfish, because there's lots of them. But apparently they like nuclear power plants, and they're staging attacks. Jellyfish are continuing to clog the cooling pipes of nuclear power plants around the world. They're continuing to clog the cooling intake pipes of nuclear power plants in Scotland, which has previously prompted a temporary shutdown of the plant. The Torness nuclear power plant has reported concerns regarding jellyfish back to 2011. I know it's global warming, isn't it? When it was forced to shut down for nearly a week at an estimated cost of $1.5 million a day. In a short comment to Motherboard EDF Energy, which runs the plant, said that jellyfish blooms are an occasional issue for our power stations. There was no emergency procedures, but we had to get rid of the jellyfish. Like many other seaside power plants, this plant uses seawater to prevent overheating. While there are measures in place to prevent aquatic life from entering the intake pipes, according to the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, they are no match for the sheer number of these blooms. Usually screens prevent them and other similar debris from being drawn into the power plant's cooling system, but when sufficiently large volumes of jellyfish are pulled in, they block the screens, and you can't make power. So, in response to the jellyfish clogging the plant, a commercial drone company called RUAS reportedly asked the Scottish Civil Aviation Authority to allow it to fly surveillance drones over the area. So, I mean, from a sci-fi standpoint, this is actually pretty cool. So you have drones being brought in to look for roaming jellyfish that are attacking nuclear plants. It sounds like a great screenplay.
And what's funnier still is that jellyfish have no means of directional propulsion.
I know, they just but they go toward warmth, apparently. I don't know why, but apparently they have a bloom. I don't know.
Well, it looks like food.
It doesn't look. They can't see, right? They kind of just...
Not in the traditional sense, but when they are observing around them.
But they hit the water. Food. You know, when you're looking at them, you're on a pier, and the cannonballs come up, and they hit the surface, and then they just turn around, they just go straight back down. All they have the sense is they've run out of water. That's about the sense of it. Just funny. So thank your local nuclear power plant for staying open against the will.
I think would be a great source of sushi.
TK, you left that image in my head at the end of the show. Gee, thanks. Great. Have a fantastic weekend, folks. We'll be back bright and early on Monday here with the Chad Adams Show. Have a great weekend.
Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? I travel the world and the 7 seas. Everybody's looking for something. Some of them want to use you.
Keeping Whiteville informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
It's time for today's STEM tip. Okay, you know recycling is important. No one wants plastic